Chapter 1292. Shao. Shao Shunzi, Wang Shun's family of 4 left the home that made their hearts ache. No matter how much Wang Xiangwa shouted, Wang Shun remained indifferent. Wang Shun was completely disappointed in his father. He could do anything to him, but he could not tolerate his son. You'll live in regret and pain for the rest of your life. This is the price you have to pay for hiding Fan Jun. Young master, just now. Ouyang opened his mouth. Looking at him, Lin Rei knew what he wanted to ask. Lin Rei did not hide it and told him the mystery. Illusory array, I told you that I'm a saint-level array master, right? What? Saint? Saint-level array master? Ouyang exclaimed. His eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. What are you doing? Looking at Ouyang shocked expression, Lin Rei was stunned. What's there to fuss about? Didn't I tell you before? Ouyang was speechless. He was helpless. He only knew that his young master was an array master, but he did not say that he was a saint-level array master. Brother Lei, you didn't say that. When we were in Sea City, you said that you were an array master. Is that so? I don't know. Anyway, I remember saying that. Lin Rei was too lazy to explain. Just now, after Wang Shun committed suicide, his wife also committed suicide. At that moment, I saved the 2 of them and put them in the illusory array. As for the 2 children, they had nothing to do with this matter. So, there was no need to kill them. Besides, I'm the kind of person who kills without batting an eyelid. After saying that, he rolled his eyes at Ouyang and the others. Then, he stopped talking. He was waiting for the system to tell him where Fan Jun was locked. Ouyang, lock this old man up. When I find Fan Jun, let him out. As for what happens after that, it will depend on his luck. However, I think he will live in guilt and regret for the rest of his life. Ouyang said, understood, young master. He stood up and walked over to Wang Xiangwa. Reaching out, he lifted Wang Xiangwa up and walked into the room. Outside, Lin Rei came to Wang Xiangwa's wife and said, I'm sorry for what happened to your family. I only wanted to find the person I was looking for. It was your husband who was too stubborn. In the end, he was betrayed by everyone. Alas. The old lady turned around and looked at Lin Rei. There was no suspense in her eyes, only heartache and helplessness. Young man, you can't be blamed for this. My old man is like this. This old woman is also very sad. It's good that he's gone. Shun should be able to live the kind of carefree life he wants now. After saying that, she turned and walked outside. Times have changed. How can a person remain the same from beginning to end? Sighing, he left the courtyard. Time has changed. Looking in the direction the old lady had left, Lin Rei was stunned. Regarding this sentence, he heard many different voices, as if the old lady was talking about herself. Forget it, I should hurry up and find Fan Jun. After saying that, he looked around. Brother Lei, what should we do next? The red flaming tiger came to Lin Rei's side and asked. Kill. Regaining his senses, killing intent surged as he looked at the horizon. When the other empires invade, Li Jiping's army should be defending or fighting against the enemy. As such, it is impossible to unify Hongtian Empire. So, I understand. Without waiting for Lin Rei to finish, the little dragon sneered and nodded. Young master wants me to go to the border and help Li Jiping's army to wipe out the other empires. At the same time, I will warn them not to invade in the near future. This will give Li Jiping enough time to unify Hongtian Empire. Hee, you brat. Seeing how the little dragon understood him so well, he didn't know what to say for a moment. Thinking back to when he was in Shantian, when he first met this fellow, he almost became the meat in the red flaming tiger's plate. Who would have thought that in the end, this little fellow would be able to accompany him and grow to this stage? The red flaming tiger also didn't expect that a low-level demon like him would be able to grow to a stage that even high-level demons wouldn't dare to imagine. After this matter, bring Ouyang with you. Remember, don't kill blindly, just intimidate them. If it really doesn't work, kill to stop the killing. Understood. The red flaming tiger nodded and didn't say anything else. Ding. Search complete. Host, please check. Ding. This search cost 1 million exchange points. Host, please check. 1 million. Hearing the notification, Lin Rei's heart ached. To spend 1 million just to find a person, how could he not feel heartache? Forget it, as long as I can complete the mission, not to mention 1 million, this sovereign is even willing to pay 10 million. After saying that, he communicated with the system. Check the search result. Ding. Okay. The system's voice sounded. Just as it was about to say something, a screen appeared. Just like before, the route was accurately marked on the screen. Bastard, just you wait. When your mission is completed, let's see if I can't kill you. Thinking of Fan Jun, his teeth itched. Brother Lei, what's wrong? At the side, noticing that Lin Rei's expression was constantly changing, he asked. No, nothing. Let's go, we found Fan Jun's location. Let's go and see what exactly is blocking our divine sense. Found it? Looking at Lin Rei, the red flaming tiger was shocked. Lin Li nodded, then began to walk towards the rear courtyard. Fan Jun had disappeared from the map. He had been imprisoned in the rear courtyard. On the way, following Lin Rei, the red flaming tiger had many questions in his heart, but he didn't ask them. In his heart, as long as it was Lin Rei who said it, he would believe it. The two arrived at the backyard. Looking at the deserted backyard, both of them were stunned. Damn, system, are you playing with me? Looking at the scene in front of him, he really wanted to pull the system out and let him see for himself. Follow the system's directions and you will definitely find the person you are looking for. The system replied. Regarding the system's answer, although Lin Rei expressed his doubts, there was no other way. Things had already turned out this way, no matter how much he said, it would be useless. All right. Moving forward, with the red flaming tiger around, what could the weeds do? With the red flaming tiger leading the way, Lin Rei was very relaxed. Finally, when the two of them passed by a rockery, Lin Rei suddenly shouted to stop. Don't go, it's here. Pointing at the rockery, Lin Rei hesitated. Here. Looking at the rockery, the red flaming tiger was stunned, then nodded. Brother Lei, back off, let me do it. Be careful. Although this is the empty nether region, if it can block our divine sense, it must be something special. Lin Rei reminded again. Finally, the red flaming tiger started its operation. Chapter 1293. After repeatedly warning the flaming tiger, Lin Li left. He had seen the explosive power of the flaming tiger, especially after absorbing the undying flames of the demonic phoenix. The flaming tiger's characteristics had become even clearer. Its fire element was even stronger than before. Even he didn't dare to take its attacks head-on. Brother Lei, I'm starting. Turning his head, he nodded towards the distant Lin Li, then rose into the air. Arriving at a certain altitude, he lowered his head and stared down at the artificial mountain. Without saying a word, he began to circulate the energy in his body. Sky roaring strike. The scarlet flame tiger roared and opened its mouth at the fake mountain. A red beam of light shot out. Swish. Boom. A loud sound rang out. A beam of light shot out from the scarlet flame tiger's mouth, aiming at the fake mountain. Its speed was extremely fast, and the force of the impact was even greater. Rumble. After the loud sound, the ground started to shake. Lin Rei, who was standing in the distance, felt the ground shaking violently. Finally, he rose to the sky. In the front yard, Ouyang, who was looking at Zhongli and Wang Xianghua, was bored to death. Suddenly, the ground started to shake. Crack. And hearing the strange sound, he had a bad feeling. Looking up, he saw cracks on the roof and the pillars supporting the room. The room was in danger. What the hell is going on? Although he was curious, seeing that the room was about to collapse, Ouyangzhen flashed to the side of the two. He stretched out his hand to lift Zhongli and Wang Xianghua and rushed out. Rumble. The moment Ouyangzhen and the other two left the room finally couldn't withstand the trembling and collapsed. Damn, what the hell is going on? Although the ground was still shaking, they were in an open space. Zhongli and Wang Xianghua couldn't be hurt. They calmed down and released their spiritual sense. What the F***ck? Within his divine sense, he saw Linli and the scarlet flaming tiger soaring into the air, and in the direction of their gazes, an enormous crater appeared. Around the crater, red flames blazed. These flames. Looking at the flames, Ouyangzhen's heart skipped a beat. To be able to burn the ground, this kind of flame was rare. Until now, he only knew of a few. Among them, Lin Rei's illusory spirit blood fire was one of them. There were also the scorching demon fire, earth-sinking cold fire, and so on that were controlled by other large organizations in the saints' world. However, he had never seen this type of flame before. Unfortunately, he was sure that this flame was emitted by the scarlet flame tiger. At this moment, the scarlet flame tiger was still surrounded by this kind of flame. Its heat was extraordinary and extremely terrifying. In the backyard, looking at the hole in front of him, the scarlet flame tiger grinned. This was after he had restrained most of his strength. Otherwise, perhaps the entire Prime Minister's residence would not be able to withstand it and would shatter into pieces. Heh, you rascal. Lin Rei naturally saw the scene that happened just now. Thinking of the attack just now, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Back then, the scarlet flame tiger had followed him and coincidentally obtained the undying flame. Now, it seemed that it was his own good fortune. Brother Lei, the entrance to the cave has appeared. Let's go down. At this moment, the crimson flame tiger stopped its attack and turned its head to Lin Rei beside it. Looking at the scarlet flame tiger, Lin Rei nodded, let's go and see what's down there. As he spoke, he descended from the sky and came to the edge of the cave. Lin Rei didn't care about the burning red flame at all. The moment he came to the side of the flame, he released the illusory spirit blood fire. Suddenly, the flame that wanted to devour Lin Rei withered as if it had seen its emperor. This scene shocked Ouyangzhen. He didn't expect this. Just now, he thought that the two flames were of the same level. Now, it seemed that it wasn't so. Young master is young master. Lin Rei naturally didn't know about Ouyangzhen's words. At this moment, Lin Rei lowered his head and looked at the hole that appeared below. In the depths of the hole, a tunnel flashed in front of Lin Rei's eyes. As expected. The system's prompt made sense. There was indeed a tunnel here. If so, then Fan Jun must be in this tunnel. As he spoke, he didn't say anything else and jumped down. Then, seeing Lin Rei jump down, the scarlet flame tiger naturally followed behind. In the tunnel, a cold wind blew. Lin Rei glanced at the two tunnels and fell into deep thought. System, which one should I choose? The right. The system prompted. Let's go. After reminding the scarlet flame tiger, he walked towards the right. Regarding this, the scarlet flame tiger didn't say anything. Then, at the end of the tunnel, an imperial palace appeared. The imperial palace was magnificent and couldn't be compared to the imperial city of the Hongtian Empire. Here, not only were the materials good, but the carvings were also exquisite. It was far from what the imperial city could compare to. The ornaments placed here were all carved from black jade. This kind of jade was rare in the Hongtian Empire. It could be said that it was worth tens of thousands of gold coins. However, here they were in piles. Sect leader, it seems like we've been discovered. At this moment, in a room in the underground palace, a middle-aged man in a green shirt came to the front of a man and bowed. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the man frowned. Obviously, he found it hard to believe that this place had been discovered. What's going on? According to Wang Xianggua's stubbornness, he wouldn't tell anyone about this place. Regarding Wang Xianggua, he couldn't be sure about other things, but he was absolutely certain about this matter. However, regarding this, the middle-aged man shook his head. I'm not sure. However, there was a loud noise outside just now. Then, someone stepped into the tunnel. It can be seen that the person forcefully broke through the ground. As for his strength, I don't dare to make a guess. As he spoke, the middle-aged man retreated to the side. The man fell into silence and frowned. It seemed like the man didn't think that this place would be discovered. Looking at a jade scroll floating in the distance, his gaze fell on the middle-aged man. He said, "Old Six, go. Think of a way to stop them outside. Remember, before I refine this floating mirror, don't let them in. Remember, do it cleanly." As he spoke, the man made a killing gesture on his neck. Understood, my lord." Saying that, he turned around and walked out. After Old Six left, the man's face was extremely gloomy. "I originally wanted to wait a little longer to slowly study you. Looks like I can't wait anymore." Saying that, he got up and walked towards another room. Pushing open the door, he saw a middle-aged man tied to a cross. His entire body was dripping with blood. His hair was messy and his clothes were tattered. He didn't look like a human anymore. Looking at the middle-aged man, the man sneered and said, "Fan Jun, I originally wanted to let you live a little longer. Unfortunately, this place has been discovered. For that thing, I can only sacrifice you in advance." That's right. At this moment, if Lin Rei saw the bloody man tied to the cross again, he would definitely vomit. This guy was the missing Fan Jun. As if he was awakened by the man's words, Fan Jun raised his head to look at the man. His eyes were bloodshot and he stared at the man like a wild beast. He said coldly, "I didn't expect the third prince to hide so deeply. I didn't expect Wang Xianggua to be one of your people." Haha. Chapter 1294. Wang Xianggua. That old thing didn't recognize Empty Tai. Previously, he followed the crown prince to suppress me. However, he didn't expect that when I appeared in front of Yahoo, he saw my value and left the crown prince's camp to come to me. As he spoke, his interest was piqued. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he continued, "It's a pity. His previous actions have already proven his future. Even if he dies, I won't feel the slightest bit of heartache." However, as he spoke, he slowly walked in front of Fan Jun and said, "That may not be the case for you. You have the Yin Meridian and were born to be a sacrificial offering. Therefore, be prepared to become my sacrificial offering and contribute to the throne. This is your glory." Fan Jun understood that if there were no accidents, today would be the day of his death. He didn't have anything to say about this. That's good. It's weird like this. As he spoke, he reached out and untied the rope on Fan Jun's body. He brought him to the room with the floating mirror. At the passageway, Lin Rei didn't know what was happening in the palace. He was still wandering in the passageway. The passageway was very long and seemed to have no end. For such a long passageway to appear in this place, he started to wonder what was inside. "Brother Lei, why don't. Looking at the red flame tiger, he knew what it wanted to do. "This is the passageway. If you attack, I'm afraid we'll have to open another passageway. It's troublesome. Moreover, we can't be sure if Fan Jun is in front. Anyway, if something happens, Fan Jun is immortal. His life is very fragile." Hearing this, the red flame tiger could only give up. He understood and finally nodded. He retreated to the side and didn't say anything. Heh. Seeing how the flaming tiger was behaving, Lin Li chuckled, then continued forward. Whoosh. Just as Lin Rei and the red flame tiger were walking forward in boredom, suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air came from ahead. Brother Lei, be careful. Hearing the strange sound, the red flame tiger flashed in front of Lin Rei and raised his hand to slap the air in front of him. Bang! A long arrow appeared and collided with the red flame tiger's front claw. In the end, it fell to the ground. Looking at the long arrow, Lin Rei was startled. He raised his head to look at the endless passage in front of him. His spirit shook as he released his divine sense in an instant, covering a radius of several miles. In his spiritual sense, he saw a figure 1,000 meters ahead of them, holding a bow and arrow, facing them. Looking at the man, Lin Rei didn't release his anger. Instead, he smiled and looked at the scarlet flame tiger beside him. It seems like we didn't come here in vain. Yes, that person is also courting death. Since Lin Rei could sense it, the scarlet flame tiger could naturally sense it as well. Looking at that figure, the scarlet flame tiger sneered, killing intent surging from its body. In his heart, as long as it was harmful to Lin Rei, everything was his enemy. No matter who the other party was, it was clear that the person who had attacked was on the scarlet flame tiger's must-kill list. Let's go. Since there are people here, it means that Fan Jun's location is not far away. Old Six, who was 1,000 meters away, didn't know that his actions had not only failed to kill Lin Rei and the scarlet flame tiger, but also became a death sentence for him. I wonder if Master has finished refining it. Turning his head, he looked at the direction of the palace behind him and fell into deep thought. He didn't have the confidence to kill the people who suddenly appeared here. In his impression, those who could find this place were all experts. Moreover, he clearly heard the loud sound from before. Lin Rei and the scarlet flame tiger continued to move forward. After sensing that there were people here, they even used their footwork. At this moment, only their afterimages could be seen in the passage. Seems like we've really hit a wall this time. Looking at the two figures in front of him, Old Six smiled bitterly. His previous thoughts were confirmed when he saw Lin Rei and the scarlet flame tiger. Seeing the two appear, Old Six didn't even think. Although he knew that he couldn't defeat them, he still raised his hand, grabbed the bow, and pulled the bowstring back at Lin Rei. Whoosh! The arrow left the bowstring, and with lightning speed, it appeared in front of Lin Li in the blink of an eye. Looking at the long arrow, Lin Rei sneered and raised his hand. The moment the arrow appeared in front of him, he grabbed it with his hand. His gaze locked onto Old Six and interest flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, "Where is Fan Jun? Who are you? Why are you here? What do I have here?" 3 questions in a row. These were the questions he wanted to know the most right now. Thinking about the thing that could block his divine sense, his heart burned with passion. He couldn't wait to get it and sell it to repay his debt. Who are you? Why are you here? And that Fan Jun you mentioned, what is his relationship with you? Old Six didn't answer. Instead, he asked the same questions. Looking at Sixth Bro, Lin Li frowned slightly. Clearly, he wasn't very satisfied with Sixth Bro's answer. Ow! A tiger roar resounded. The scarlet flame tiger couldn't stand it anymore. He roared angrily and fixed his gaze on Old Six. He said coldly, "Brat, my brother Lei asked you a question. Answer honestly. Otherwise, I will kill you." However, after hearing those words, Old Six didn't show any fear. On the contrary, he looked as if he was facing death with equanimity. Lin Rei was stunned. Now, he understood that this guy might be a death warrior. Lin Rei didn't continue to ask such an existence. If that's the case, then I will come directly. At this moment, Lin Rei lost his patience. After saying those words, his figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of Old Six. He reached out his hand and pressed it on Old Six's head. A strange power flashed and entered Old Six's mind. When Old Six reacted, he only said one word. Then, his voice suddenly stopped. He looked ahead with lifeless eyes. He was like a body without a soul. Soul search. The soul search technique was the lowest level technique in the cultivation world. As long as one reached the gold core realm, they could use it. However, he hadn't used this technique for a long time. After being used, the person who was subjected to the soul search technique would become a fool or even a vegetable. After using the soul search technique, old Sic's memories appeared. From when he was young to when he grew up, everything appeared. Looking at these memories, he felt pity for old Six. However, the result couldn't be changed. Hongyu. In old Sic's memories, he found this Hongyu who was called a prince. However, Hongyu didn't have any power or influence. He was shrewd and ambitious. Lin Rei continued to look. After looking through old Sic's life, Lin Rei finally knew that everything was Hongyu's doing. Wang Xiangguo was Hongyu's man. From the memories, he saw Fan Jun and knew that Fan Jun was in danger. Let's go. Chapter 1295. Walking in the tunnel, the red flaming tiger sensed old Six who was lying on the ground and asked, "Brother Lei, what should we do with that person?" Him. Knowing what the red flaming tiger was referring to, he thought for a moment and said indifferently, "Let him perish on his own. After being searched by the soul-searching technique, he will probably live the rest of his life in ignorance." All right. The red flaming tiger didn't say anything else. He understood that once Lin Rei made a decision, no one could change it. In the palace, Hongyu brought Fan Jun to the room with the floating mirror and threw him on the ground. "Does Hongji know what you are doing?" Fan Jun endured the pain and raised his head to look at Hongyu. In the past, in everyone's eyes, Hongyu was just an unfavored prince. He had no power or influence. Everyone even thought that this prince with no power or influence was not very smart. However, he was wrong. Or rather, everyone was wrong. Everyone only saw the side of Hongyu that he wanted others to see. However, he knew that it was already too late. Or perhaps, if those idiots still didn't notice this prince's abnormality, the entire imperial dynasty would fall into Hongyu's hands in the end. Hongyu didn't understand Fan Jun's thoughts. He looked at Fan Jun with a bloodthirsty smile and said coldly, "Then, even now, you still ask in the same tone as before. Do you know? It's because of you people, because of your prejudice, that my mother died. It's because of your status that you can judge my mother's status from the moral high ground. You can look at my mother with those high and mighty words. It's because of you." Hongyu became more and more agitated. In the end, he directly said, "Because of you, I lost the motherly love that a child should have when I was young. It's because of you people that I became like this." So, as he said that, he slowly walked to Fan Jun. His cold face flashed, "Now that I have grown up, all of you will pay for what you did to my mother. Even Hongji will pay the same." As he said that, he grabbed Fan Jun's hair and lifted him up from the ground. Ah! The pain spread from the top of his head to his upper and lower limbs. Finally, his entire body was immersed in pain. He had never experienced this kind of pain before. It was much more painful than being whipped. "You, just kill me." As a soldier, he would rather be killed by a knife than suffer such pain. Rip. Suddenly, a strange sound rang out. A small tuft of hair was torn off from Fan Jun's head. Blood flowed down from the wound, spreading across Fan Jun's face and dripping onto the ground. "Oh, it's bleeding." Looking at the fresh blood, Hongyu was inexplicably excited. He was extremely excited. TSK, it's still not enough." Taking a step forward, he led Fan Jun over to the floating jade slip. Staring at it, he began to pray in his heart. "What do you want? I've even brought you a living sacrifice. As long as you can bestow me with power, I'll give you whatever you want. I beg you." With such thoughts in mind, Zhang Xian stretched out his hand and held Fan Jun's head above the jade slip. At some point, a glowing dagger appeared in his other hand. Grabbing the dagger, he pressed it against Fan Jun's main artery. "Whether I can break the seal or not, it's up to you." Rip. The sound of flesh being cut was heard. A bloody mark appeared on Fan Jun's aorta. Blood gushed out like a fountain and sprinkled on the jade slip. Gulp. Gulp. The moment the blood sprinkled on the jade slip, a strange sound rang out. It sounded like the sound of drinking water. The sound was so loud that even though Fan Jun was in a daze, he could still hear it clearly. What's going on? With difficulty, he looked at the jade slip. He could feel that the sound of drinking water came from the jade slip. What is this thing? Why is it so strange? With difficulty, he questioned Hongyu. He. After being awakened by Fan Jun, he stared at Fan Jun as a mocking smile appeared on his face. As you can see, it's something that can make this seat stronger. As long as I possess this item, I will be able to become the king of Hong Tian. So what if it's the surrounding empires? In the end, they will still have to bow down to my name. As he spoke, Hongyu seemed to have already seen the scene of him ruling the world. The arrogant and proud smile on his face was undisguised. More and more blood flowed out, and Fan Jun no longer had the strength to speak. He could feel his life ebbing away quickly, as if he could die at any moment. Fear spread throughout the body. Now, he truly experienced the feeling of death. It's weird. Don't talk. When your blood runs dry, I'll let you go. Fan Jun, he didn't say anything else. Clearly, Fan Jun didn't have the strength to speak. He had gained a new understanding of Hongyu today. Back in the underground palace's main hall, Lin Rei and Shifeng finally arrived. As soon as they entered the underground palace, they looked around at the construction materials used to decorate the underground palace. This is so King extravagant. Having been here for some time, he naturally knew how precious black jade was. Now, all he saw were decorations made of black jade. He smacked his lips and grumbled in dissatisfaction, "This Hongyu, don't be fooled by his quiet personality. I didn't expect him to be such a person. He has been acting for more than 10 years. From old Sect's memories, he clearly knew how deep Hongyu's character ran. He pretended to be a little white rabbit in front of others, and when he met others, he was extremely weak. However, behind his back, he was vicious and merciless, committing all kinds of evil deeds. If these people were placed in the holy world, they would definitely be a big deal. However, this was the empty underworld region, and most of the cultivators were in the underworld. This was why people like him didn't have the chance to come into contact with more people. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the back, Lin Rei was speechless as he listened to Lin Rei's complaints. In the end, he couldn't help but persuade him. "I say, Brother Lei, shouldn't we save Fan Jun first? After we kill Hongyu, all the things here will be yours." Hearing this, Lin Rei didn't refute. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that this was indeed the case. Little tiger, I didn't expect you to be so smart at this time." He couldn't help but give the scarlet flaming tiger a thumbs up. After praising it, he turned around and walked toward the room in the distance. From old Sect's memories, Fan Jun and Hongyu were in that room. The levitating mirror was also in that room. Although he didn't know what the levitating mirror was, he had a feeling that it was something that blocked their divine sense. Chapter 1296. Inside the room, Fan Jun's hair was still being pulled by Hongyu, but the main artery in his neck was no longer bleeding. As for Fan Jun, his face was pale to the extreme. If one didn't know better, they would have thought he was dead. TSK, just this little bit. I thought you would have a lot of blood since you're strong and a soldier." Looking at Fan Jun, who had stopped supplying blood, Hongyu threw him far away with a look of disdain. With a thud, Fan Jun's body fell to the ground. Because there was no more blood, he was even more unconscious, so he couldn't feel the slightest pain. Hongyu's gaze fell on the floating mirror. As for Fan Jun, in Hongyu's eyes, he was completely useless. What he cared about more was the floating mirror. Hongyu seemed to have forgotten that an outsider had broken in. Perhaps in Hong Yu's heart, he was thinking that OL-6 would be able to solve that problem. Looking at the hovering sky treasure mirror, Hong Yu stretched out his hand and placed it on top of the mirror. Suddenly, the moment his palm came into contact with the hovering sky treasure mirror, a cool and refreshing energy flowed into Hong Yu's palm through the jade slip, spreading into his body. Yes, this is the feeling, this is the feeling. Feeling the cool qi's effect, Hong Yu was excited. He vaguely remembered that it was this qi that had turned him from an ordinary person into a cultivator that he dreamed of. Since then, his body had grown rapidly. Whether it was in terms of strength or other aspects, it was vividly displayed. Without wasting any time, he left the floating mirror. Ignoring the blood on the ground, he sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Outside the door, Lin Rei was not in a hurry to enter. His divine sense surged. In an instant, his divine sense was no longer blocked, and it poured into the room. In his mind, the image that appeared caused Lin Li to be stunned, and a surge of desire welled up within him. Fan Jun's qi was getting weaker and weaker, and he was exhaling more than he was inhaling. Especially after losing all his blood, he looked like he might die at any moment. Fortunately, if you hadn't taken the soul-controlling pill, you might have already died. Lin Rei wasn't surprised that Fan Jun hadn't died. Although the soul-controlling pill was a pill used to control people, the ingredients used were top-notch. Fan Jun was immortal, so he naturally didn't have the ability to absorb all of it. A large portion of the medicinal power was automatically sealed in various parts of his body. Brother Lei, shall we go in? Behind him, the scarlet flaming tiger couldn't help but ask. Lin Rei could sense the situation in the room, and the scarlet flaming tiger could even more. However, just as the words left her mouth, she saw Lin Rei wave his hand and shake his head. No, there's no rush. This Hong Yu has clearly absorbed a bit of the power in the jade slip. At this moment, he is absorbing and refining it. I really want to see what kind of reaction he will have after absorbing it. Although that was the case, it was not the case. Since the scarlet flame tiger did not have the strength to speak, he used his spiritual sense to communicate with the system and asked. Stop hiding, come out and see what that thing is. He believed that the system already knew. Ding. Do you want to activate the scanning program? Please make a decision. Ding. This scan requires 1 million exchange points. Host, do you wish to proceed? Hearing the system's notification, Lin Rei couldn't wait to drag the system out and give it a good beating. What was going on now? Why did a scan require 1 million exchange points? It wasn't like this before. Thinking of this, Lin Rei was speechless. Now, the system was asking for sky-high prices. This was, ding. Host, are you willing to bear 1 million exchange points? Host, you must know that this thing is extraordinary. Perhaps the system will be able to obtain something unexpected from it. Host, please consider carefully. Lin Rei, what did this mean? Was this a naked temptation? However, to be honest, Lin Rei was really tempted. For the system to say this, it meant that this thing must be a treasure. After much consideration, Lin Rei finally endured the pain and nodded heavily. Deduct. Anyway, I already owe so many exchange points. As the old saying goes, when you have too many lice, you don't feel itchy. When you have too many debts, you don't have to worry. Just add as much as you want. Saying this, Lin Rei had an indifferent look. This scene fell into the eyes of the scarlet flame tiger and it shook its head helplessly. Sigh, it's acting up again. Ding. Scanning begins. Host, please wait a moment, the system began. Lin Rei was bored to death. Since he didn't want to go in now, he had spent 1 million exchange points. As for this act of cutting his flesh and dripping blood, he naturally had to make up for it. Turning around, his eyes sneakily looked at the ornaments in the underground palace. The corner of his mouth rose, and a smile that made the scarlet flame tiger's heart palpitate appeared. Damn, Brother Lei, what are you doing? In its heart, as long as Lin Rei smiled like this, who knew who would be unlucky again? Mutual, move, empty this place for me. Sure enough, when these words came out, the scarlet flame tiger was stunned and helplessly shook its head. However, its body was honest and walked towards the black jade ornaments in the underground palace. The scarlet flame tiger was never stingy with the previous ones. That's it. Loot as much as you can. Otherwise, we'll have wasted our trip. After saying that, he didn't stay idle and walked in the opposite direction of the scarlet flame tiger. The two moved quickly. After the two of them professionally searched the entire underground palace, apart from the stones that couldn't be moved, there wasn't a single valuable item left. After doing all this, Lin Rei and the scarlet flame tiger gathered outside the room. Looking at the empty underground palace, Lin Rei's heart finally recovered a lot. Damn, I'm finally comfortable. After saying that, he sat down and used his divine sense to penetrate the room. He saw that Hongyu was still sitting cross-legged, with no signs of waking up. On the side, the unconscious Fan Jun's condition didn't worsen. Instead, it was much better. Although his face was still pale, there was a trace of color. His breathing had also returned to normal. It seems that the medicinal effect of the soul-controlling pill is starting to be digested in this guy's body. After saying that, he leaned against the wall and drank a bottle of wine. Time passed, bit by bit. Just as Linley was about to finish his fourth bottle of wine, the sound of the system notification finally rang out. Ding, scanning complete. Host is, stop talking nonsense, hurry up and check. Lin Rei said impatiently. Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the system didn't beat around the bush and a screen appeared in front of Lin Rei. The label on the screen was very obvious. The suspended mirror, a product from the depths of the universe. It recorded a profound cultivation technique. The suspended mirror itself was also a very powerful refining material. It also had a considerable amount of spirit chi. That's it? Nonsense, what else do you want? The system said in a bad mood. No, this can also block my divine sense. Lin Rei didn't understand. Chapter 1297. Nonsense. What do you think the floating mirror is? The system was annoyed and continued, the floating mirror is not only a cultivation technique, it is also a type of spiritual jade. What I didn't expect is that the floating mirror is actually a secret key. According to the system's analysis, this secret key is very profound. It is at least the key to a top-notch secret realm. Oh. Lin Rei was interested. Indeed, as the system said, it did have the ability to block the divine sense. After all, he had mentioned before that this kind of key could block the divine sense. However, the functions of the floating mirror are far more than that. However, the willing one function is not only useless to your current strength, it might even bring you harm. Just like the ant inside the mirror who is refining the energy transferred to him by the floating mirror. Why do you say that? Lin Rei asked. If a mortal refines energy that is 100 times stronger than his body, what do you think will happen? Hearing this, Lin Rei was stunned and said subconsciously, if it is light, his soul will be destroyed by the energy. If it is heavy, his body will explode and he will die. Of course, there is no guarantee that the energy will not be absorbed. If a mortal can really refine the energy into 100 times stronger, then it is not impossible for him to break through and enter the cultivation world. The system nodded. Indeed, there was such a possibility. However, how many people in the world could have such good luck? Those who had such good luck were all children of heaven. However, at the very least, Hongyu was not one of those children of heaven. Otherwise, he would not have been laughed at by his family and everyone else. Sigh, enough. You don't have to think about this kind of thing. You only need to know that there are advantages and disadvantages to having the floating mirror. In short, you only need to refine it and use it as an energy carrier. As for the cultivation technique inside, it is better for you not to cultivate it. The primal chaos heavenly scripture is more suitable for you than the cultivation technique inside the floating mirror. Therefore, obtain the floating mirror. As for Hongyu, kill him. The fewer people who know about this, the better. The system stopped speaking, and its voice disappeared. Regarding this, Linley understood what it was thinking, so he didn't pursue the matter. Alright, since that's the case, let's go take a look at the floating treasure mirror. As he spoke, he walked up to the stone door and placed his hand on it. The spiritual energy in his body surged into his arm and into his palm, and finally, it collided with the stone door. Bang! With a muffled sound, the stone door shattered, and Linley saw everything in the room. TSK. Originally, I wanted to use this item to exchange for some exchange points to repay my debt. Now, it seems that will be impossible. After saying that, Shi Feng walked towards Hongyu, who was in the midst of refining the energy he obtained from the hovering mirror. As a mortal, one should act according to one's ability, and not bite off more than one can chew. Although you are unwilling, you cannot use this kind of method to improve yourself. If that's the case, I can only spin a cocoon around myself. As he whispered, Hongyu awoke from his cultivation and heard everything that Lin Rei said. Hongyu didn't agree with Linley's words. As far as he was concerned, these people were only here to covet his treasures. Hongyu opened his eyes and looked at Lin Rei. He sneered, "You are the one who broke in earlier?" Lin Rei didn't reply. He looked at the floating treasure mirror and walked towards it. Seeing that Lin Rei ignored him, Hongyu's anger grew. However, he soon calmed down and said coldly, "Since you are here, it means that sixth brother is already dead. If that's the case, you deserve death. Coveting this seat's treasure and killing this seat's brother, no matter which one it is punishable by death. Therefore, perhaps death is a very good ending for you." As Hongyu spoke, he did not notice the disdain in Linley's eyes at all. Hongyu stood up and looked at Lin Rei. He still didn't reply. His eyes were still fixed on the floating treasure mirror. Hongyu could no longer hide the anger in his heart. "You are courting death." While speaking, Hongyu raised his hand and turned it into a claw. He bent his body and stomped on the ground with his right foot. His figure instantly turned into a torrent and rushed towards Lin Rei. "Heh, ant-like thing. I really don't know where you got the courage to attack me." Looking at Hongyu who was rushing towards him, Lin Rei sneered again and again. Lin Rei didn't put Hongyu's child's play in his eyes. He didn't even do anything. His eyes were still fixed on the floating treasure mirror. When Hongyu arrived in front of Lin Rei and his claw was about to land on Lin Rei's head, a beastly roar sounded. A huge figure suddenly appeared. Before Hongyu could react, he felt a pain in his waist and his body flew away uncontrollably. Pfff. In midair, Hongyu spat out a mouthful of blood. His body heavily hit the wall and fell to the ground. Pfff. Another mouthful of blood was spat out. Hongyu couldn't endure the pain in his waist anymore and roared. With a pale face, he looked at the scarlet flame tiger who was standing beside Lin Rei. He was shocked and fear emerged in his heart. How is this possible? This guy, Hongyu didn't expect that such a thing would appear out of nowhere. However, what made him curious was why he couldn't even block a single attack from the scarlet flame tiger. Thinking back to when he obtained that energy, he could easily tear apart tigers and even bears with his bare hands. Why was it the complete opposite now? Ant. Just when Hongyu was puzzled, a tender voice came from the scarlet flame tiger's mouth. "What? You can speak?" Hongyu was even more shocked. Speaking human language, what kind of ability was that? Looking at Hongyu, the scarlet flame tiger was filled with disdain. He was even more disdainful of this weakling in front of him. "Brat, you dare to attack Brother Lei? How many lives do you think you have?" The scarlet flame tiger looked at him angrily. In his heart, Lin Rei was his reverse scale. Whoever touched the reverse scale would die. No matter who you were, as long as you crossed this bottom line, even if it meant risking your life, you would be killed. What's more, this was an ant that could be killed with a sneeze. Alright, little tiger, leave this guy alone for now. I still have a lot of questions to ask him later. Lin Rei spoke at this moment. How about you go check on Fan Jun first? He can't die yet. Hearing this, the Scarlet Flame Tiger nodded. He glared at Hong Yu and turned to Fan Jun. He's not dead yet. Sensing Fan Jun's condition, the Scarlet Flame Tiger felt relieved. Then, he raised his hand and drew a line from top to bottom. A small jade bottle appeared in the next moment and landed on the Scarlet Flame Tiger's palm. If you weren't still useful, you would be a dead man now. As he spoke, he unwillingly poured out a red pill from the jade bottle and stuffed it into Fan Jun's mouth. After doing all this, the Scarlet Flame Tiger retreated to the side and waited quietly. As for Fan Jun, after eating the pill, even if he was heavily injured, he would be able to recover. Moreover, Fan Jun had only lost a lot of blood. Chapter 1298. On the other side, Lin Rei arrived in front of the floating mirror. Looking at the blood-soaked jade strip, his heart began to palpitate. This thing, is it really that good? 90% of the system's words were true. Lin Rei was filled with anticipation as he placed his hand on the floating jade strip. Boom! With a loud rumble, a terrifying torrent appeared and entered Lin Rei's body through his hand. Feeling the torrent in his body again, his eyes widened and his jaw dropped. His heart was filled with shock. Previously, he thought that the system was joking. But after feeling this energy, he understood that the system was not joking. Instead, it made it sound simple. Swish. Pooh. Not good. Lin Rei spat out a mouthful of purple blood. His expression changed and he quickly sat down cross-legged. He circulated the devouring heaven art and primal chaos heavenly scripture at the same time and began to devour and refine the energy in his body. What's going on? Seeing Lin Rei vomiting blood, his heart tightened and he quickly went forward to check. Phew, that's good. Luckily, Brother Lei's technique is special. Otherwise, this energy would have caused Brother Lei's body to explode. Seeing that the energy was being refined by Lin Lei, the Scarlet Flaming Tiger let out a sigh of relief. However, Hong Yu, who was lying on the ground, felt a sharp pain in his waist. When he saw Lin Rei vomiting blood, he seemed to have forgotten about the pain in his body and laughed crazily. Ha ha ha, who told you to be arrogant? Didn't you say that I'm an ant? Aren't you capable? How do you feel now? Do you think you can covet my things? Humph. Oh woo. Seeing Hong Yu's crazed expression, the Scarlet Flaming Tiger couldn't help but roar. It opened its mouth and shot out an energy ball, smashing Hong Yu's body. Boom. Ant, obediently stay at the side. Don't let me hear your voice again. Otherwise, it won't be so simple next time. Hong Yu shut his mouth. His body was in even more pain. That attack had broken most of his bones and many of his meridians. If it wasn't for the energy in his body, he would probably be a corpse now. Humph. Knowing that he wasn't a match for the Scarlet Flame Tiger, he harumphed coldly and turned his head away, not saying a word. However, he paid close attention to Lin Rei's situation. In his heart, it was impossible for Lin Rei to refine the energy. The only person who could refine it was him, and only he could control it. He was waiting for Lin Rei to die so that he could escape. Perhaps others didn't know, but Lin Rei knew very well that this surge of energy was simply too dominating. Even his body was just barely able to withstand it. Host, use this energy to quickly recover your cultivation so that you can achieve a breakthrough in your cultivation. After completing this mission, you might be able to break through to Earth Saint, or even better. Of course. You'll have the power to speak in the Saint's world, and the Sect's status will rise with you. In addition, there's Ying and the others in the Sect. Within 10 million kilometers, no one is a match for the Xuanzong Sect, the system urged. Hearing this, Lin Rei's heart trembled, and he nodded imperceptibly. I understand. Don't worry, I won't give up such a good opportunity this time. Saying that, he calmed himself down and began to circulate the 2 cultivation methods with all his strength. In the blink of an eye, Lin Rei had been cultivating for more than a month. During this month, Lin Rei's cultivation returned to the peak of the mid-stage Dao fruit realm at an amazing speed, and he even felt like he was about to break through to the late stage. Sensing Lin Rei's recovery, the Scarlet Flame Tiger was overjoyed. Soon, I'll be able to break through to the late stage if I work harder. Feeling the saint's spiritual qi in his body, he became excited. Breaking through had been a sore point for him during this period of time. He didn't expect to come across such a miraculous heavenly treasure in this world by accident. Without this trip, it would be impossible for him to break through to the late stage without at least 1,000 years. The saint's spiritual qi in his body surged, and the energy of the floating mirror seemed to have been refined by Lin Rei. Looking at the remaining energy, he was confident that as long as he was given time, breaking through to the Earth Saint realm would not be a dream. Phew, he let out a long breath and entered cultivation again. This time, he would not wake up until he broke through to the late-stage Dao fruit realm. Outside, Ouyang Zheng looked at Wang Xianghua and waited for Lin Rei to fail. Then, he used a sealing technique to seal the entire Wang Xianghua's residence. During this month, the border was in an emergency, and Li Jiping rushed to the front line. Ouyang Zheng was afraid that something would happen to Li Jiping, so he didn't get Lin Rei's order to go to the border and began to implement the plan that had been planned. On the other hand, Hong Ji, who was in the imperial palace of Heavenly King Hong, didn't attend court during this period of time. The assassination last time had left an irreparable shadow on Hong Ji. In the imperial palace, in the Heavenly Dragon Palace, Hong Ji looked at the old man in front of him and asked excitedly, "Teacher, how is it? Is there a chance that we can kill Li Jiping with the other empires?" At this moment, if Ruo Lin Rei was here, he would be very happy to hear this and applaud him. Wasn't this exactly what Lin Li wanted? With Hong Ji forcing Li Jiping would rebel, while Lin Li would control everything from behind the scenes, helping Li Jiping unify the country and complete his mission. The old man was the imperial tutor of Hongtian Empire, Ho Junfeng. Of course, other than Hong Ji and a few key people, no one knew of his existence. Hearing Hong Ji's words, Ho Junfeng frowned and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, this time I went to the other empires to discuss. They all agreed with your idea and are willing to act. After all, this is the best thing for them. They have wanted to get rid of Li Jiping for a long time, but they didn't have the chance. Your Majesty, you gave them the chance, so they are very willing." Hearing this, Hong Ji let out a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. As long as Hong Ji dies, the Emperor will send people to the border. With my 50% military strength, how can I not defeat them? Sigh, looking at Hong Ji, Ho Junjie sighed. He was very disappointed in this student of his. If he didn't owe the previous emperor a favor, he wouldn't be here today. Thinking about it, he felt very guilty. If he had the chance, he would rather not have owed this favor. However, it was a pity that there were no ifs in the world. If there were, there wouldn't be so many dead people in the world. Hong Ji didn't see Ho Junjie's expression and waved his hand to the guards at the door. "Go, tell them that the emperor invited the officials to a banquet." "Yes, Your Majesty." The guards didn't say anything else and left. Seeing this, Ho Junjie was even more disappointed. He knew that it was time for him to leave. Chapter 1299. In the underground palace in Wang Xianghua's backyard, Lin Rei didn't know what Hong Ji was thinking. At this moment, he was trying his best to break through to the late-stage Dao fruit realm. As for the rest, it was up to fate. In the face of a breakthrough, everything else seemed so insignificant. The border Guanma-yi was an open space in the past. It was very spacious and flat, like a natural battlefield. This was also the path to the other empires. It could be said that this was the common battlefield of the other empires. Guanma-yi belonged to the Hongtian Empire. In Guanma-yi city, Li Jiping was in the city lord's residence. He looked up at the red clouds in the sky with a melancholic expression. He had been in Guanma-yi city for dozens of days. However, during this time, he felt uneasy. If it was a normal battle, he wouldn't feel this way. Looking at the blood-red clouds in the sky, he felt an inexplicable urge to look up to the sky and howl. Ta-ta-ta, suddenly, the sound of footsteps came from afar. A young man in red armor walked quickly to Li Jiping and knelt down on one knee. He hurriedly said, reporting, "Marshal, I just received news that the Tianling Empire, the Duanrui Empire, and the Xia Xian Empire have joined forces. They each sent out 500,000 soldiers and are not far from the Guanma Pass. According to estimates, in another day, the 1.5 million soldiers will arrive at Guanma East City." What? Li Jiping recovered from his shock. Hearing this, Li Jiping was dumbfounded. He finally understood the reason for the uneasiness in his heart. 1.5 million soldiers. Not to mention him, even if anyone came, they wouldn't be able to resist such a terrifying force. At this moment, the entire Guanma East City only had 300,000 soldiers. Previously, he thought that it was just one empire. If it was just one empire, 300,000 soldiers would be more than enough to deal with the enemy. However, now, the three empires had 1.5 million soldiers. Without more than 1 million soldiers, it was impossible to defeat the three empires. "Marshal, what should we do now? The three empires have sent out their soldiers at the same time. This has never happened before." Hearing the young soldier's words, Li Jiping nodded. Indeed, although a joint battle was powerful, it wouldn't work if both sides didn't have absolute trust. Of course, there was another possibility. Benefits. Only benefits could allow the three empires to temporarily bury the hatchet between them. Needless to say, this benefit was to kill Li Jiping. If Hongtian Empire were to lose Li Jiping, then the entire Hongtian Empire would fall into the hands of the three empires. There was only 1 day left. In 1 day, 1.5 million soldiers would arrive at the Guanma Pass. When that time came, 300,000 soldiers would be no match for the enemy. If he were to act rashly, the final result would be that the 300,000 soldiers would not return. He would not allow that to happen. Quick, write a letter and send it to His Majesty as fast as possible. Also, send a letter to the surrounding cities. Tell them to mobilize all their troops to resist the power of the three nations. With that said, Li Jiping did not hesitate at all. He turned around and walked into the house. He picked up a pen and began to write. Because of the importance of time, Li Jiping's writing speed was very fast. Soon, he had finished writing all 6 letters. Then, he went to the courtyard and saw the young soldier still kneeling on the ground. Li Jiping's impression of him deepened. "You, send 6 people dressed as commoners to deliver the 6 letters to the addresses written on the letters." "Yes, Marshal." Hearing this, the young soldier nodded. He stood up and took the letters. Then, he ran away quickly. In the blink of an eye, the soldier disappeared. Looking at the disappearing figure of the soldier, Li Jiping did not dare to relax. 1.5 million soldiers was something that had never happened before. "Men, prepare a horse. I will go to the Guanma Pass to check out the situation." With that, he turned around and walked out. Whoosh! Just as Li Jiping was about to leave the mansion, a crack appeared in the sky above Li Jiping's courtyard. Ouyangzhen's figure appeared from the crack. Looking down at the mansion, he sneered, 300,000 against 1.5 million. If you were the young master, you might have a chance. Unfortunately, you are just a mortal." Furthermore, when he thought of Hongji, he didn't even need to think about it. When Hongji saw Li Jiping's letter for help, he would destroy it without hesitation. He couldn't wait for Li Jiping to die. At that time, the entire Hongtian Empire would belong to him, Hongji, and he wouldn't be able to stand side by side with him anymore. Thinking about Li Jiping's laughable request for help, he couldn't help but sigh. If such a person was born in the holy world, he might be able to achieve great things. Sigh. With a sigh, Zhang Xian shook his head. "It seems like I'll have to make a move to intimidate those ants." Otherwise, if Li Jiping dies, I won't be able to withstand young master's wrath. With such thoughts in mind, Zhang Xian leaped into the dimension rift once more. On the way to the Guanma Pass, Li Jiping didn't know that while he was worrying about the 1.5 million soldiers, Ouyangzhen's figure appeared above them. 100 li away from the Guanma Pass, a group of soldiers walked over. Their speed wasn't very fast, but their aura was like a rainbow, giving people the impression that they were going to pierce through a rainbow. In the air, Ouyangzhen, who was standing high up in the air, looked down at this team. His heart trembled. If he thought that Li Jiping had a 30% chance of winning before, then after seeing this team, that 30% chance disappeared in an instant. They obviously came prepared. Do you think you can deal with them with your 300,000 soldiers? TCH. With a grumble, Ouyangzhen released his divine sense and covered the entire group. Everyone appeared in his divine sense, but what surprised him was that there weren't any special carriages in the group. There were only ordinary soldiers, and even their armor was the same. Looking at the group, Ouyangzhen was dumbfounded. Damn, how am I supposed to find them? He had thought that those generals would be riding on carriages or tall horses at the very front. But now, these ants are so shrewd. It seems like I can only use force. It had to be said that Ouyangzhen really admired the general of this group. Being able to blend in with the soldiers like this, even if there was an enemy attack, he wouldn't have to worry about his own safety. Thinking about it, Ouyangzhen laughed bitterly. Then, he descended and appeared not far away. At this moment, Ouyangzhen had the imposing manner of one man holding the pass, 10,000 unable to break through. The army slowly walked over, and Ouyangzhen, who was in the middle of the road, looked up. When he saw the group of soldiers at the front, a smile appeared on his face, and he waved his hands to greet them. Good afternoon, everyone. Have you eaten? Do you want some water? Everyone, looking at the person who had suddenly appeared, the group was taken aback. Following which, they stopped in their tracks and their faces darkened. If anyone tried to stop them during their march, there was no need for them to report it. They would kill them without mercy. Yet, such a person had appeared out of nowhere and was even asking questions. Why aren't you talking? Seeing that the crowd had stopped, Ouyangzhen was taken aback. He strode towards the crowd and asked as he walked, I say, everyone, why haven't I seen your commanding officer? Where's the marshal? Clang. As soon as Ouyangzhen's words came out, the group was taken aback. Killing intent flashed across their eyes as they drew their swords from their waists and aimed at Ouyangzhen. The leader looked at Ouyangzhen and said coldly, Who are you? 9 people are in the middle of the road, and, as he spoke, the man narrowed his eyes and killing intent surged, You said that we're the marshal. Who are you? Who sent you here? When the army stopped moving forward, the million soldiers at the back naturally stopped as well. When the marshals and generals saw that the army had stopped moving forward, anger surged in their hearts. You, come here. Among the million soldiers, a middle-aged man pointed to a soldier at the side, Go and see what's going on. Why did they stop moving at this time? Don't they know how much food is needed for 1 million soldiers to march for a day? Indeed, before the soldiers and horses moved, the food had to be prepared first. If the army stopped for a day, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if he was the marshal, he would have to pay the price for this responsibility. This was something that he could not afford. Hearing the marshal's order, the young soldier left the group and walked forward. The other 2 groups also understood the situation. The 3 people were none other than the marshals of the 3 empires, Tianling Yuanshan, Duan Rui, Ma Ming, Xia Xian, and Lu Qingshan. Looking at the leading soldier, Ouyangzhen smiled and walked forward step by step. Finally, he was 1 meter away from the group. Looking at them, Ouyangzhen stretched out his hand and grabbed the young soldier who had just spoken. Suddenly, the smile on his face disappeared, and a bloodthirsty expression appeared. Speak, where are your marshals? Let them come out, and we can discuss and solve this matter. Otherwise what? The soldier whose throat was being grabbed by Ouyangzhen subconsciously spoke. Heh. Looking at the young soldier, Ouyang coldly laughed. He tightened his grip slightly, and pain came from the soldier's throat. A demonic voice sounded in his ears, otherwise, everyone here will die. Hiss. Ouyang did not hide his words from the crowd. After hearing these words, everyone subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. Of course, some people did not believe it at all and sneered. Brat, who do you think you are? You want to kill everyone? There are 1.5 million people here, and you say you have all the killing intent. Do you think it'll take a day? 2 days? 10 days? Or 20 days? That's right, brat, hurry up and kowtow and admit your mistake. Perhaps we'll be happy and leave your corpse intact. That's right, brat, hurry up. Don't dilly-dally like a girl. Don't make me look down on you. For a moment, apart from a few people who were more cautious, the rest of the people began to mock and threaten Ouyang without thinking. However, the young soldier who was being choked by Ouyang did not think that Ouyang was joking at all. The moment Ouyang said the words, all murderous aura, he felt a murderous aura that made his entire body spasm in fear. He was afraid that Ouyang was telling the truth. If that was the case, the entire group would not be able to survive. On the other hand, Ouyang did not react to the crowd's mockery. Instead, he looked at them with a smile. If those who knew Ouyang saw this smile, they would understand that this was the prelude to killing. Quietly, I'm coming. Just like how you quietly die, I'll wave my sleeves and leave no one alive. Looking at the crowd who were mocking him, a long sword appeared in the sky. Perhaps because it was far away, the crowd could not see it at all. Looking at the crowd who were still mocking him, Ouyang ignored them and used one hand to activate the sword technique. Die. Illusory sword technique, descend upon the world. The long sword in the sky instantly transformed. 10 long swords, 100, 1,000, until finally 10,000 swords appeared. The densely packed long swords shrouded the sky. Is it going to rain? The sky suddenly darkened, causing everyone to be stunned. They subconsciously thought that it was going to rain. Little did they know that it was indeed going to rain. However, it was not going to rain, but a rain of swords. Fall. With a wave of his hand, his sword finger slid down from top to bottom. Following that, the 10,000 swords in the sky broke free from their restraints and fell from the sky. Poochie. Ah. All of a sudden, 10,000 swords fell from the sky like rain. Each sword carried a life. Ah. As the sword rain fell, 10,000 lives were lost in an instant. This is just the beginning. Don't be anxious. Soon, all of you will join them. As he spoke, the sword technique was activated again. 10,000 long swords awakened and appeared again. Following that, another 10,000 people died. The cycle repeated over and over again as if there was no end. The young soldier who was being choked by Ouyang looked at his comrades falling one by one in front of him. His heart was filled with grief. Say. Senior, this junior knows where the marshal is. Please be magnanimous and don't kill anymore. Ouyang, who was in the midst of killing, heard this. Suddenly, the long swords that were already awakened stopped in midair. He looked down and was speechless. Look at you. Why didn't you say that earlier? Why did you have to wait until I killed so many people before you were willing to speak? As he spoke, he waved his hand to disperse the 10,000 long swords in the sky. He continued, lead the way. Yes. The young soldier did not dare to slack off. After witnessing such a terrifying strength, how could he dare to be complacent? He stood up and pointed in the direction of the army. Senior, the marshal and the others are in the army. Looking at the direction the young soldier was pointing, Ouyang sneered. Just as I thought. As he spoke, he nodded and led the young soldier towards the army. Because he had just killed, Ouyang had to step on the corpses to advance. This scene fell into the eyes of those soldiers who did not die. They were all trembling in fear. Some of the more timid ones even sat on the ground and lost control of their bowels. Chapter 1300. Humph. Seeing how cowardly the soldiers were, Ouyang coldly snorted and ignored them. He continued to follow the direction the young soldier pointed at. The path ahead was very calm and relaxed. There were no obstructions at all. The soldiers that were passing by also tactfully opened up a path for them. Along the way, under the guidance of the young soldier, Ouyang finally arrived before the three marshals. Yuan Shan, Ma Ming, and Lu Qingshan were all middle-aged men. Earlier, a soldier had reported to them. Thus, the instant they saw Ouyang, the two of them respectfully stood where they were and waited for Ouyang's instructions. Although the three of them were marshals, they were unfortunately mortals. They had never heard of Ouyang's method of killing people. Swords falling from the sky and killing 10,000 people in one go. With such a method, not to mention them, even if the emperors of the three great empires were here, they would also obediently stand to the side and not dare to speak. You all, looking at the three of them, Ouyang spoke, you three are the marshals of these 1.5 million soldiers? At that moment, the three of them were acting very submissive. They did not have the might and dignity of a leader at all. This caused Ouyang to doubt whether the three of them before him were truly marshals. Say. Senior, the three of them are the marshals of the three empires. They are Tian Ling Yuan Shan, Duan Rui, Ma Ming, Xie Xian, and Lu Qingshan. There is no mistake. The young soldier in Ouyang's hand felt Ouyang's doubtful gaze and immediately spoke to confirm. Right. Senior, the three marshals are the marshals of the three empires. There is no mistake about that. Yes. At that moment, in order to not be implicated, the surrounding people could not help but nod and confirm that the three people before them were their marshals. At that moment, after being confirmed by the crowd, the three marshals' expressions turned ugly. After all, this group of soldiers would usually try to curry favor with them. Never did they expect that in a time of crisis, they would betray them without the slightest hesitation. Although they were forced to do so, the speed of their betrayal was a bit too fast. Of course, the three of them did not deny it. They immediately smiled and nodded repeatedly. That's right. Senior, the three of us are indeed marshals. Hearing this, Ouyang nodded his head. He glanced around, and seeing that there was nothing else to do, he sat down in midair. Amazingly, Ouyang sat down in midair. Once again, the crowd realized that Ouyang didn't speak his mind. Regarding this, the three marshals swore in their hearts that they definitely could not afford to offend this person. Thinking about this, Tian Ling Yuanshan stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Senior, may I ask what instructions you have for this banquet? Please speak. As long as it's something you say, we will naturally do our best to accomplish it for you. Yes. Senior, please tell us. As long as we can do it, no, even if we can't do it, we will try our best to do it for Senior. That's right, Senior. Just say the word. We'll go through mountains of knives, pots of oil, wind and rain. Just say the word and we'll do it. The three of them expressed their stance. To them, the situation before them was a crisis, but at the same time, it was also an opportunity. If they could obtain benefits from the person before them, then their future would definitely skyrocket, and they would have a meteoric rise. Seeing how the three of them expressed their stance, Ouyang naturally understood their intentions. Smiling, he opened his mouth and stated his motive for this banquet. The three of you, bring the army back the way you came from. I won't start a massacre. After all, I don't have any enmity with you. What? Go back? Retreat? The three of them were stunned as they stared blankly at Ouyang, as though they thought that they had heard wrongly. Retreat? This was something that they had never thought of before. Furthermore, they had never linked Ouyang with the Hongtian Empire. After all, if the Hongtian Empire had such a powerful existence, then their empires would have long ceased to exist. There wouldn't be such a scene today. Why? You're not willing? Seeing the three of them in such a state, Yangzhen frowned slightly. His tone turned from gentle at the start to extremely cold. It was as though every single word of his could freeze them to death. The surrounding soldiers didn't dare to have any thoughts. After all, this matter didn't fall on their heads no matter what. Even if they didn't retreat, it was something that could be done with a single word from the marshal. They were just executing his orders. Unknowingly, the surrounding soldiers slowly retreated to a 1-mile radius. Within this 1-mile radius, only Yangzhen and the others were left. The entire place was silent. The three marshals didn't say a word. They were hesitant about retreating. After all, mobilizing 500,000 soldiers would consume a huge amount of resources. They couldn't afford to do so. Although they were worried that they would be killed, if they were to return just like that, the Emperor Lord might question them when they returned to the Empire. Even if they were to tell him what happened here, the Emperor Lords might not believe that such a person exists. Who would believe that 10,000 people would die in a single move? Seeing that the three of them still hadn't made up their minds, a cold smile appeared on his face. He raised his hand and instantly, a long sword descended from the sky. The long sword emitted a buzzing sound. Raising his head to look at the three of them, his bloodthirsty expression appeared once again. You have to be clear that I am not discussing with the three of you. I am informing you. Of course, you can choose not to agree. However, you have to believe in my ability. With a wave of my hand, I can kill 5 million of you. Oh, that's not right. How many are left now? 3 million? Or 2 million people? As long as I wave my hand, everyone here will die. Don't worry, there won't be any pain. Plop. The three of them fell to the ground. Their faces were pale and their legs were trembling. They were in a state of extreme fear. Looking at the three of them, Yangzhen smiled. He raised his hand and grabbed the sword hilt. He circulated his cultivation and spiritual energy into the long sword. Believe in me. I can do it. As he spoke, he waved his hand and slashed the sword in the air. Bang! Kacha! In the distance, a loud sound could be heard. Dust filled the sky and the ground trembled. The surrounding ground cracked. Tell me, what do you think of my sword? Looking at the three of them, they were so shocked that they couldn't control themselves. This was exactly what he wanted to see. How many of you do you think I can kill with this sword? The power of this sword was huge. Anyone with a discerning eye could calculate that if this sword didn't reach 1 million, it should be at least 400,000 to 500,000. Moreover, this was just a casual attack from Yangzhen. If he used his full strength, how many of them would be able to survive? If Linley were to attack, most likely no one present would be able to live. Senior. Looking at the dusty scene, he swallowed his saliva and quickly said, Senior, Tianling is willing to retreat. Not only that, Tianling will not invade Hongtian Empire in the future. This, hearing Yuan Shan's words, Ma Ming and Lu Qingshan looked at each other and shook their heads bitterly. At this moment, 10,000 curses were running through their hearts. Initially, they thought that this was a chance for them to make a name for themselves. However, at this moment, they had even made a military order in front of their respective emperor, saying that they were going to take down Hongtian Empire. But now, not only did they fail to do it, they even lost so many soldiers. This put them in a difficult position. As for Yuan Shan, the two of them obviously didn't have the same courage as him. On the surface, Yuan Shan was the marshal of this army. However, Yuan Shan's other identity was the younger brother of Tianling Empire's emperor. Even if they didn't complete the mission, they wouldn't be punished when they return. They were different. Their family wasn't made up of commoners. The reason why they were where they were was because they didn't fight on the battlefield. They couldn't afford to pay for it. The two of you. Looking at the two of them hesitating and being submissive, he frowned and said coldly, "You're not willing to retreat?" Ouyang didn't expect this. He didn't expect that even after using his cultivation, the two of them still wouldn't be afraid. At the same time, he was curious about what the two of them were thinking. "Senior, the two of us have a problem," Yuan Shan suddenly said. "Oh? What's the problem?" Ouyang curiously looked at Ma Ming and Lu Qingshan. Yuan Shan looked at Ma Ming and Lu Qingshan and didn't hide anything. He said, "Their family started out as commoners. They have many wives and children. This time, they must have made a military order. I'm different. I'm the younger brother of Tianling Empire's emperor. Even if I fail, it doesn't matter. They're different. They can't afford to pay for it. So, senior, do you think there's a way to get the best of both worlds?" Hearing this, Ouyang was stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. However, the army must be retreated. Thinking of this, he looked at the three of them and his expression softened. "The three of you can retreat first. Of course, it's not permanent. However, there are still some matters in Hongtian Empire that I need to deal with. When I'm done, I will inform you. At that time, I won't care whether Hongtian Empire lives or dies. At the same time, during this period, I won't give them any help." So, saying this, 3 jade bottles appeared in his hand. He handed them to the three of them and said, "There's a water cloud pill here. It can cure all kinds of illnesses. As long as that person still has a breath left, eat it and you'll definitely be able to recover. With this medicine, I believe that your emperor won't punish you after you take it back. As for what I said today, you just need to pass it back to your emperor." This. The three of them were stunned. They looked at the 3 jade bottles with doubt in their eyes. Recovering all injuries in an instant. Is this possible? Anyway, in their worldview, there was no such thing. "Senior, I believe in you." At this moment, Yuan Shan was still the first to step forward. He took one of the jade bottles and said respectfully, "Looking for someone like you, this thing shouldn't be fake." However, as he spoke, he hesitated. He looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. "Speak, what's the matter?" He raised his head and looked at Ouyang. His eyes were resolute as he said, "Senior, I saw your method just now. I want to ask, what is it?" Hearing this, Ma Ming and the other two looked over. They were also curious, but they weren't as bold as Yuan Shan. Looking at the three of them, Ouyang didn't hide anything. After all, in his heart, the three of them weren't a threat at all. Even in the entire empty underworld region, no one could threaten him. Looking at the three of them, Ouyang said, "Cultivators absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and go against the heavens to become immortals. I'm above immortals. I'm at the supreme realm of immortals. With a wave of my hand, I can destroy the stars. With a wave of my sword, I can cut the sea. I can go to the heavens or the earth easily." So, at this point, Ouyang didn't continue. He believed that even if he didn't say it, the three of them would understand what he meant. Above immortals, supreme realm of immortals. Hearing Ouyang's introduction, the three of them subconsciously muttered to themselves as they looked into the distance. Immortals, this word was extremely attractive to them. In the empty underworld region, there were also legends of immortals. However, to their knowledge, they had always thought that it was merely a legend, or even a painting that only existed. However, at this moment, hearing Ouyang's words, they believed it. They believed it without a doubt. With that method just now, could a mortal do it? Alright, take the medicinal pills. It's decided to retreat. Saying this, he stood up and looked at the three of them. He reminded them, "The three of you are quite talented in cultivation. Unfortunately, you've passed the best age for cultivation. However, if you have the help of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, you should still be able to step into the ranks of cultivation." After saying this, Ouyang left in a flash, leaving the three of them in a daze. Yangjun's words completely aroused the passion in the hearts of the three of them. Who in the world didn't want to cultivate? Unfortunately, the path of cultivation was too difficult. Moreover, there was no way out. Senior, when Yuan Shan came back to his senses and called out, he looked over. At this moment, Yangjun's figure was still there. Yuan Shan, look. What is that? Just when Yuan Shan was feeling disappointed, Ma Ming's voice suddenly sounded. What is it? He turned around and looked at Ma Ming. When he looked at where Ma Ming was pointing, he saw an ancient book with an animal skin cover. He took a step forward and squatted down. He reached out and grabbed the ancient book in his hand. The 3 words on the cover were particularly eye-catching. Wind and cloud art. This is it a cultivation technique? Maybe, it is. The 3 of them were in a daze. One after another, they asked the question that was in their hearts. Quickly, take a look. What is written inside? Ma Ming was the first to come back to his senses. He eagerly said to Yuan Shan. Yes, yes. Quickly. Hearing the 2 of them, Yuan Shan came back to his senses and quickly flipped open the ancient book in his hand. Wind and cloud art. When cultivated to the highest realm, one will be able to reach the heavens and have an unlimited lifespan. This is really a cultivation technique. Looking at the line of extremely exciting words, the 3 of them were completely certain. I didn't expect that we would have such an opportunity this time. The 3 of them couldn't help but nod in agreement. Then, let's copy this book separately. As for the original book, I think we should put it away and protect it together. What do you think? Once this idea came out, the other 2 nodded their heads and endured the pain. In their hearts, this was their opportunity. At the same time, it was also something that could change their lives. Thus, it should be done. Chapter 1301. In the distance, on a hill that was relatively far away, Li Jiping led a group of subordinates and rode on a tall horse. They stood proudly and looked into the distance. In the vast wilderness, there was not a single person, not even an animal. Looking at the desolate scene, Li Jiping turned around and asked the general beside him, "Didn't you say that one? 5 million soldiers were coming? Why is it that I don't feel the aura of an army here? Moreover, the terrain here is open. If there were so many people, we would naturally be able to see them." As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed at the desolate area in front of him and said coldly, "Speak, is there anyone here?" Li Jiping was furious. Lying in the military was a violation of the military rules. As such, the punishment would be 100 beatings and the punishment would be beheading. Hearing this, the general beside him was so frightened that he fell off his horse. He looked puzzled and explained, "Marshal, this general is not sure." This general only heard it from the messenger. Indeed, he did not know that the young soldier who sent the message had bypassed them and went straight to Li Jiping. It was only after Li Jiping found them that he learned about this matter. "Therefore, you don't know?" Li Jiping frowned. He had forgotten about this. However, as a general, he did not even know where the enemy's army was. This made him even angrier. "Men, drag him down. 50 beatings and demote him by 1 rank. Keep him for observation." "Marshal, this subordinate knows his mistake. This subordinate knows his mistake. Marshal, please be merciful." The middle-aged general was dumbfounded. He did not expect that a moment of carelessness would lead to an unknown fire. "Drag him down." Li Jiping turned around and ignored the general's begging. He waved his hand to the people around him. Suddenly, 4 people walked out and dragged the middle-aged general away. The rest of the people did not dare to speak. They were truly afraid of the marshal in front of them. Of course, they were also in awe. Otherwise, they would not have stayed here and not left. As for the general who was demoted, he was really pitiful. If it was not for Yangjun stopping him, let alone 5 million soldiers, the enemy would have already been in front of them. Sigh. Looking ahead, Li Jiping sighed and shook his head. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go. After this, send people to scout out within 10 miles. If there is any movement, report it immediately." Plop! Just as Li Jiping's voice fell, he heard a series of noises behind him. He turned around and saw over a dozen generals kneeling on the ground. They cupped their hands and said, "Marshal, don't worry. We will do our best." Looking at the crowd, Li Jiping smiled bitterly and ignored them. After Ouyangzhen left, he did not continue to protect Li Jiping, but returned to the Heavenly Emperor city. He believed that with his deterrence, the three empires wouldn't dare to invade again. Of course, that was while he was still in Hongtian Empire. As for what would happen after he left, he didn't care. When he arrived at Wang Xiangguo's house, Wang Xiangguo couldn't take it anymore because of the shock he had suffered. He was even a little dazed. During this period of time, Wang Xiangguo was like an old child. This made his wife very happy because only in this way could he stay by her side. Ouyangzhen did not care about this. He only had himself to blame. He had given him a chance before, but he did not know how to cherish it. Now, he could only blame the heavens for not helping him. "Senior, my husband is already in such a state. I hope that Senior can be merciful and let him go. After all, you have already found what you want." Therefore, plop. The old lady directly kneeled in front of Ouyangzhen and kowtowed. Tears flowed down her cheeks uncontrollably. "Senior, my husband has never done anything evil in his life. This is the only time he was forced into a corner. Therefore, Senior, I beg of you." Pa pa pa, her head knocked against the ground, causing Ouyangzhen to have a headache. Looking at her age, if she wasn't in her 70s, she was in her 60s. Mortals at this age were usually very weak. At this moment, the old lady was willing to go to such an extent for her husband. However, it was a pity. If he was the one handling this matter, he would definitely not do anything. Unfortunately, this matter was handled by Lin Rei. It was not appropriate for him to interfere. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. With a wave of his hand, a gentle spiritual energy gushed out and lifted the old lady up from the ground. "Girl, you don't have to beg me for this matter. What I said is useless. However, I can promise you that I will speak for you. As for what will happen in the end, then." As he spoke, he shrugged helplessly. Thank you, Senior. This is good. This is good." Hearing Ouyangzhen's words, the old lady cried tears of joy. "All right, quickly go back and rest. For a mortal to do this, your muscles and bones are already injured. Go back." As he spoke, in order to prevent the old lady from kneeling again, he turned around and left. In the backyard, beside the rockery, Ouyangzhen came here but did not enter. Without Lin Rei's order, he did not dare to enter. He still wanted to live for a few more years. He looked at the surrounding weeds and did not care. He sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Cultivators were heaven-defying people. As long as there was a place to cultivate and no one disturbed them, it was fine. In the royal palace, in order to celebrate his scheme against Li Jiping, Hongji celebrated every night. During the day, he even held a banquet. It was for no other reason than that Li Jiping would definitely die this time. However, little did he know that while he was enjoying himself every night, Li Jiping, whom he wanted to kill, was currently training his soldiers at the border with nothing to do. In the royal palace, Hongji was in the main hall. He lifted his head and looked at the huge royal palace. A smile appeared on his face. From today onwards, this place belongs to the emperor. Emperor equals? What a joke. Just thinking about this title makes him feel extremely displeased. This title was bestowed upon him by the previous emperor when he was still alive. Due to the existence of the title Emperor equal to 1, the citizens of Hongtian Empire only have the title Emperor equal to 1 in their hearts, while he, the true ruler of the empire, has been forgotten by the people. This was a scene that no one in power wanted to see. However, it happened in Hongtian Empire. This was also the reason why Hong Tian and Hong Ji could not tolerate him. Of course, another reason was because of the wife of the emperor equals, Li Jiping. Thinking about that woman, Hong Ji sighed in his heart. What do you mean by this woman is rare in the mortal world? What do you mean by a fairy? That woman back then was definitely one. However, in the end, she would rather die than submit. Because of this, there was almost a mutiny back then. Looking at the clouds in the sky, a bloodthirsty look appeared on his face. Li Jiping, do you really think that you can replace the emperor? Do you really think that you are amazing just because you have 50% of the army? And now, aren't you still being schemed against by the emperor? Chapter 1302. Another month passed quietly. Within the underground palace, Linley was still seated cross-legged in his room, working hard to refine the energy from the hovering mirror within his body. It could be said that he had gained a lot from this. Rumble. Suddenly, a thunderous sound rang out in the quiet room. The scarlet flaming tiger, who was cultivating, sensed it and stopped cultivating. It looked around, but there was nothing unusual. Did I hear it wrong? Thinking that it might have heard it wrong, it immediately went back to cultivating. Then, at this moment, the thunderous sound appeared again. This time, the scarlet flaming tiger was sure that there was indeed that sound in the room. Moreover, the sound seemed to be coming from, as he thought about it, he couldn't help but look at Linley. He hesitantly walked over to Linley, as if he was waiting for the voice to appear again. Unfortunately, after waiting for a long time, the sound it was waiting for did not appear. Sigh. Did something go wrong with my cultivation? Thinking about it, the scarlet flaming tiger checked its situation. Rumble. Huh. This time, it was really fine. It looked at Lin Ray. At this moment, it was sure that the sound was coming from Lin Ray's body. His face was filled with worry. He instantly released his divine will, covering Linley with his divine sense. This is, in the instant that the flaming tiger's divine sense covered the area around Linley's body, it saw circles of something that looked like ripples of water, with Linley at the center, spreading outwards in all directions. I'm about to break through. That's right, I'm about to break through. That's why there's such a scene. However, at this moment, it felt an extremely terrifying power from the illusory ripples. He could feel that this small ripple was not something he could resist at his current level. Late-stage complete Dao fruit realm? After sensing it carefully, the scarlet flaming tiger was sure that this was the sign of a breakthrough. Damn, is Brother Lei going to defy the heavens? Breaking through to the complete Dao fruit realm would normally take tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years. Even first-rate geniuses would need tens of thousands of years. However, Brother Lei, 1 month? Heavens! Is he trying to set the record for the fastest breakthrough to the great circle of the Dao fruit realm in the holy world? Thinking about it, the scarlet flame tiger couldn't help but become excited. Now, it was as if he had broken through himself. He was jumping with joy. It was all thanks to the palace's explanation. Otherwise, how could it withstand his excitement? Of course, it is also because the scarlet flaming tiger held back its strength. One of the reasons was because it was afraid of disturbing Lin Ray's cultivation. Otherwise, forget about this place, even the entire capital of Hongtian Empire wouldn't be enough for him to torment. While cultivating, Lin Ray's consciousness was very clear. Feeling the scarlet flaming tiger's excitement, Lin Ray smiled. He doted on the scarlet flaming tiger a lot. After all, it had grown up with him. This kind of feeling was very special. Finally, I've reached perfection of the Dao fruit realm. Lin Ray smiled as he felt the strength surging through his body. Previously, he thought that it would take a long time for him to make a breakthrough. He did not expect that he would be able to break through to the great perfection Dao fruit realm with just a single trip. Now, if he were to go out and fight the demonic beast from before, he would not be able to kill it, but he would not have to flee in such a sorry state. Moreover, he fell into such a desolate place with nothing to show for it. Of course, being able to make a breakthrough was something that Lin Rei did not dare to think about. After all, he bought this place and wanted to see even a single cultivator, let alone others. Boom! Feeling the aura in his body, he couldn't help but mobilize his aura. Suddenly, cracks began to appear on the surrounding walls. The floating mirror seemed to have sensed that the palace was not stable anymore. Without saying a word, it turned into a ray of light. Heh, this guy, I didn't expect him to be so cowardly. Feeling the floating mirror in his arms, Lin Rei was completely speechless. Damn you, in any case, you are the one who led us through endless characters. Why are you so cowardly? Of course, that was one thing, but the smile on his face made them completely speechless. You bastard. As he spoke, with a thought, the hovering treasured mirror was collected into his storage ring. Lin Li didn't plan to collect it into his system yet. After all, he had only heard about the hovering treasured mirror from the system. Who knew what other functions it had? Moreover, just a trace of energy could allow him to cultivate so quickly. If he were to place it in the system, no one could guarantee what would appear behind his back. Heh. Phew, after doing all this, Lin Rei let out a long breath. He opened his eyes that were still closed and fixed his gaze on the scarlet flaming tiger in front of him. You. Looking at the scarlet flaming tiger, Lin Rei smiled bitterly. Okay, thanks to you for protecting my hair this time. This time, I have a good harvest. In an instant, he put all the things he brought on this trip in a special place to display all kinds of heavenly treasures. The scarlet flaming tiger was shy. Hearing Lin Rei's praise and seeing the shy look on the scarlet flaming tiger's face, Lin Rei's eyes lit up. Little tiger, this time, my cultivation has increased very quickly. Originally, I wanted to go out and gain experience. Now, I want to go out and see what kind of place this underworld is. After saying that, the scarlet flaming tiger looked like it was ready to set off at any time. Don't. Lin Rei understood the scarlet flaming tiger's meaning very well. However, now that he had cultivated for so long, he still had to come in contact with the following matters. After saying that, he got up and walked to the front of the scarlet flaming tiger. He stretched out his hand and stroked its fur. In the whole world, probably only Lin Rei could touch it like this. Brother Lei, I know you want to go, but right now, the most important thing is still Li Jiping's matter. He hasn't finished his matter, and it's not time for me to leave yet. Even if I want to leave, I have to completely settle the matter here first. Little tiger, you have to know that this matter is very important to me. So, next, you and Ouyang will go to the border to protect Li Jiping. At the same time, let him know the current situation. So, next, it's up to the two of you. Lin Rei instructed while comforting the scarlet flaming tiger. Little did he know that the matter he gave was completed by Ouyang. Moreover, it was done very well. At this moment, not only was there not a single enemy at the border, even the three marshals who sent out their troops previously brought congratulatory gifts to express their gratitude. Just when Li Jiping was in a daze, the three marshals had already delivered the gifts and let him leave. Got it, Brother Lei. The scarlet flaming tiger understood Lin Rei's meaning. In the end, it nodded and replied, Don't worry, Brother Lei's matter is my matter. If that's the case, then let's go. We've already emptied this place. Just like that, the two of them left the palace together. When they left, Fan Jun was also among them. Chapter 1303. The two of them went back the way they came. Along the way, they weren't stopped like when they first arrived. However, they still saw Sect sitting on the ground foolishly, staring blankly ahead. His mouth was dripping with saliva and his pants were soaked. His hands were constantly fiddling with the mud on the ground. The two of them approached Sect. Their eyes were emotionless as they looked at him. When facing an enemy, not killing him was already being merciful. If they still felt pity for him, they would be courting death. Brother Lei, how about, no need? Lin Rei waved his hand and interrupted the Scarlet Flame Tiger. His gaze fell on OL-6. He shook his head and said indifferently, I've seen his memories. He has killed countless people in his life. Most of them were innocent people. Although I can't be considered a good person, at least I'm not a bad person. For such a person, perhaps this kind of ending is to let him pay for the mistakes he has made in his life. Finished speaking, he didn't say anything else and walked outside. As for the Scarlet Flame Tiger, after hearing Lin Rei's words, it nodded in agreement. It didn't pay attention to him and followed Lin Rei. In the outside world, not far from the cave entrance, Ouyang was cultivating. Suddenly, he heard a sound coming from the cave entrance. Immediately, his eyes opened and he went to the cave entrance in a flash. In the next moment, when he saw Lin Rei's head rise from the cave, Ouyang smiled. He withdrew his vigilance and stood respectfully to the side. The moment Lin Rei appeared at the cave entrance, he felt Ouyang's presence. He looked at him and smiled. With a light jump, he landed on the ground. Whoosh! A red figure instantly rushed out from the cave entrance. It was so fast that even Ouyang could only see a red shadow. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Suddenly, a cloud of dust rose and a figure appeared in the midst of the cloud of dust. Without a doubt, it was the Scarlet Flame Tiger. Seeing Little Tiger's exaggerated appearance, Lin Rei helplessly shook his head. He took a step back and acted as if he didn't know him. On the contrary, Ouyang, who was at the side, was endlessly envious. After all, only the Scarlet Flame Tiger followed him into the cave, and he knew that he did not have the qualifications to do so. At this moment, Ouyang swore in his heart that he would work even harder in the future. Only then would he be able to be like the Scarlet Flame Tiger and accompany Lin Rei wherever he went. Brother Lei, wasn't I cool just now? When the two heard the Scarlet Flame Tiger's voice, they looked at each other and shrugged helplessly before walking out. Leaving behind the Scarlet Flaming Tiger, Ouyang recounted everything that had happened during this period of time, including his trip to the border and the fact that he had distributed the cultivation technique of the Empire's marshals. He also blurted it all out. Hearing this, Lin Rei's eyes flashed with a strange light. When he was in the underground palace, he was still thinking of sending the Scarlet Flame Tiger to the border to help Li Jiping. He did not expect to hear such good news as soon as he came out. For a moment, he approved of Ouyang even more. Not bad. Nodding, he reached out and patted Ouyang's shoulder. Feeling Lin Rei's gratified expression, Ouyang quickly cupped his hands and expressed himself, "It is my honor to work for young master." In response, the Scarlet Flame Tiger behind him grinned. In any case, it was a demonic beast that had lived for 4,000 to 5,000 years. Although its intelligence was still that of a child's, it had seen a lot and knew a lot. The Scarlet Flame Tiger knew what Ouyang was thinking. It was nothing more than wanting to gain Lin Rei's trust. As he walked, Lin Rei admired Ouyang more and more as he looked at him. As expected of someone who had been the head of a family. He did things so quickly. Involuntarily, Lin Rei began to consider whether he should pass the little bit of power in his body to Ouyang. He believed that as long as he passed a little bit to Ouyang, he would be able to completely break free from the quasi-sage realm and become a true sage. Tisk, smacking his lips, Lin Rei thought of Ouyang's future use. In the end, he decided that when he had time, he would pass the terrifying power to Ouyang. In this way, he would have one more sage by his side. As for Little Tiger, thinking that Little Tiger was a demonic beast and that it had to undergo a heavenly tribulation in order to break through to the sage realm, Yifutian did not act rashly. It was very serious for a demonic beast to enter the sage realm. Generally, people of the 10,000 races would be very prepared if they wanted to enter the sage realm. Naturally, the more divine artifacts they had, the better. One had to know that when the 10,000 races underwent the tribulation, the lightning tribulation would increase exponentially. As Lin Rei's exclusive demonic beast, Little Tiger naturally could not suffer. Divine artifact? it might be a little difficult for others. After all, divine artifacts were very rare even in the holy world. However, it was not the case for him. Wasn't it just a divine artifact? He could have as many as he wanted. Currently, the prerequisite was that he had enough refining materials to support his divine artifact. Otherwise, everything would be in vain. As Little Tiger was a very ordinary demonic beast, it could not really transform into a human. Therefore, it was very important for it to enter the Sage Realm this time. As long as it entered the Sage Realm, Little Tiger could completely get rid of its demonic body and transform into a human. At that time, its cultivation would progress by leaps and bounds. Thinking about it, Little Tiger could not help but feel happy. It was still in a state of self-satisfaction. This kid. Looking at the scarlet flame tiger, Lin Rei smiled bitterly. More than 4,000 years had passed. He did not expect the scarlet flame tiger to still be so childish. Host, you still need to prepare some things for the scarlet flame tiger's advancement to the Sage Realm. After all, the scarlet flame tiger's body is very low. If it rashly advances, it might be dangerous. Oh. The system's sudden words made Lin Rei have to take it seriously. Lin Rei regarded Little Tiger as his brother. As the saying goes, when a brother is in trouble, he naturally has to help him to the end. Moreover, his brother was his reverse scale. Anyone who touched it would be killed without mercy. Feeling Lin Rei's agitated emotions, the scarlet flame tiger looked over. Ouyang Zheng did the same. On the other hand, Lin Rei did not know. At this moment, he only cared about the system's words. Little Tiger is a low-level demonic beast. If not for the Dragon Clan's bloodline in its body and the system's cleansing of its body, it would not have reached its current level. Although it previously obtained Xia Feng's undying flame, it is a pity that it is useless. The only way to truly change the Scarlet Flame Tiger's body and bloodline is to change. Only by solving the fundamental problem will the next breakthrough be smooth and without any danger. Hearing this, Lin Rei rolled his eyes. In his opinion, the system's words were equivalent to nonsense. What he wanted to know was the solution, not this. Of course, now that he had a favor to ask of the system, he naturally could not speak carelessly. He tried to calm down and said in a deep voice, "Tell me, how can I completely solve Little Tiger's physical condition?" Chapter 1304. The bloodline flower, together with a complete high-level bloodline and the undying flame, could completely solve the problem of the red flaming tiger being a low-level beast. Bloodline flower? Hearing this, Lin Rei was dumbfounded. He had never heard of such a thing before. He understood the meaning of the bloodline flower, but its actual use, Lin Rei was silent. The system sighed. Seems like I have to send you to the library to consolidate your knowledge. You don't even know about the bloodline flower. While sighing, the system explained the use of the bloodline flower. The bloodline flower grows in the mountains. Its grade is unknown, but it has the innate ability to fuse bloodlines. Hearing the introduction of the bloodline flower, Lin Rei was stunned. Damn, that's it? Of course. Although the introduction was in front of him, Lin Rei understood when he heard that it could fuse bloodlines and that the system wanted to find a high-level beast bloodline. However, where could he find the bloodline flower? He had never heard of such a thing. Even in the holy world, he wasn't sure if it existed. However, the system knew what Lin Rei was worried about. It continued, "You don't have to go back to the holy world. The bloodline flower can be found in the empty underworld region." Really? Nonsense, if there wasn't, I wouldn't have said it. The system said angrily. That, Lin Rei was a little embarrassed by the system. He scratched his head and smiled. Well, tell me where the bloodline flower can be found. With Ouyang Zheng here, I don't have to worry about not completing the mission. Well, I'll use the opportunity to go to the underworld to find the bloodline flower you mentioned. In the outside world, Ouyang Zheng and the red flaming tiger saw Lin Rei stop and stare blankly ahead. Ouyang Zheng was worried and wanted to wake Lin Rei up. Don't move. When Brother Lei is in this state, don't move. He might be thinking about something. Ah. He turned his head and looked over with a puzzled expression. He really wanted to ask what was going on, but unfortunately, before he could speak, the scarlet flame tiger hurriedly shook its head and explained, "This kind of situation often happens in the past. It'll be fine after a while." Previously, Brother Lei also said that at this time, if there is no problem, don't wake him up. As it spoke, the scarlet flame tiger walked to the side and lay on the ground, waiting. Is there such a thing? Looking at the scarlet flame tiger lying on the ground, Ouyangzhen really wanted to go up and call out to it. However, when he thought about how the scarlet flame tiger had followed Lin Rei for so many years, he naturally didn't hesitate. He stood to the side and quietly waited. The bloodline flower is in the empty underworld realm. As for where it is, I don't know. The system replied. Lin Rei, if others didn't know, he might have thought it was true. But the system didn't know. This was really strange. Of course, he knew that he could exchange for bloodline flowers in the system. But what about high-grade beast bloodlines? He understood that the level of that kind of thing was very expensive, and he now owed hundreds of millions. How could he have the money to get a loan? Moreover, she didn't have much time left. At most, she only had a year before he had to return the money. If he still hadn't returned the money after a year, then what awaited him was only his life as collateral. You really don't know? You really don't know? The concise conversation made Lin Rei completely lose hope. Lin Rei didn't continue. Since the system said so, it meant that there was no need to continue talking about the gift. In a flash, he exited the system space and his spiritual sense returned to his body. Lin Rei recovered from his daze. He turned around and looked at the scarlet flame tiger. His eyes were filled with determination. It seems that it's time to hurry up and find this guy a bloodline flower and a high-grade beast bloodline. Thinking of this, he waved to the two. Let's go. Stepping out of the backyard, the scarlet flame tiger got up and chased after Lin Rei. The three of them came to the front yard. Under Ouyangzhen's lead, the three of them came to Wang Xiangguo's door. Old man, do you know? You haven't been with me like this for a long, long time. Outside the door, hearing the voice from the room, Lin Rei fell into silence. Seeing that Lin Rei didn't speak, Ouyangzhen didn't dare to say a word. The scarlet flame tiger also walked to the side, bored. Actually, this is quite good. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings. Previously, because of you, Shun had been suppressing himself and didn't live the life he wanted. He always wanted to satisfy you, but it's a pity that you always despised your son for not doing well enough. Now that your son has left with his wife and children, maybe this time he can truly break away from his previous life and return to his original state. And you, as she spoke, she couldn't stop her tears from flowing. However, there was a smile on her face. You can finally calm down and no longer care about those things that chase after fame and fortune. It's a pity that you can peacefully accompany me in my old age. Outside the door, listening to the old woman's words, he couldn't help but think of his wife and son in the sect. He even somewhat agreed with the old woman's words. He began to doubt whether his son was really willing to inherit his sect. Was he really willing to be like her and become an expert that could crush all living things? Of course, this thought only flashed through his mind. He understood that if he didn't have enough strength to make all living things panic, then the so-called ideal life in his heart wouldn't be able to be realized. As the saying goes, first bitterness, then sweetness. If he didn't put in the effort before, how could he have the sweetness later? Thinking about his thoughts just now, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. I didn't expect that this sovereign's Tao heart would be shaken by the words of an old woman. Because you have always placed too much importance on your relatives, family, brothers, and so on. So much so that your Tao heart was shaken by these words. The system spoke and then fell into silence again. Lin Rei didn't think too much about this. His Tao heart was shaken because it wasn't stable enough. At the same time, it also proved that his cultivation hadn't reached the level where his Tao heart was truly firm. Taking a step forward, he reached out and pushed the door open. His figure appeared in the room. The old woman was sitting by the bedside, looking at her sleeping husband. Hearing the sound behind her, she turned around. When she saw Linley, she hurriedly rose to her feet, as though she had been electrocuted. She hurriedly walked over to Linley. "Qianbei, I." As she spoke, she bent her legs and wanted to kneel down to greet Lin Rei and beg for mercy. However, the moment she stopped, Lin Rei waved his hand and a pure saint spiritual chi controlled the old woman. His voice was calm as he said, "Don't worry, this sovereign won't kill him." The reason why he did that before was to teach him a lesson. Now that the old man has become like this sovereign has no interest in continuing. As he spoke, he looked at the old woman and said, "In the future, he will quietly stay by your side. As for your children and grandchildren, if you want to find them, this sovereign can help you. After all, it wasn't my intention to separate you from your family." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the old woman shake her head. "They have their own lives. As for me." As she spoke, her eyes locked onto her husband on the bed. A smile appeared on her face. "We have been trapped here for half of our lives. Now, at the end, it's time to see the outside world. And the mountains and rivers, and find a beautiful place to spend the rest of our lives." Chapter 1305. As the old lady spoke, a yearning smile appeared on her face. Lin Rei did not stop her. Now that Fan Jun had been found, and they were of no use to him, even if he released them, it would not be a big deal. Moreover, to the old lady, Lin Rei was still the same. He would be able to get what he wanted. He turned around and walked to the door. Suddenly, he stopped and said, "You have 12 years of lifespan, and Wang Xianghua has 11 years left. During this time, you should be able to live a good life and fulfill your wish." With that, Lin Rei did not continue. He stepped out of the room and walked into the distance. In the room, when she heard Linley's words, hot tears flowed down from the old lady's eyes. "Thank you. Thank you for telling me all this." As she spoke, the old woman bowed respectfully towards the direction Linley had left in. Regarding this, Linley was very clear about what was happening in the room, and a smile appeared on his face. "You'll have to rely on yourself for the next few days." He muttered to himself and walked out of the Prime Minister's residence. Ouyang Zheng and the others had been waiting in front of the door. The moment they saw Lin Rei walk out, they all went up to him. "Young master, brother Lei." Looking at them, Lin Rei nodded. His gaze fell on Fan Jun. He had already recovered, but he was still weak due to the loss of blood. "Ouyang Zheng, send Fan Jun back. After that, wait in the Emperor's equal prince's residence. Wait for the right time to act. As the former head of the family, I believe you can add fuel to the fire and help Li Jiping achieve unification." I. Ouyang Zheng smiled awkwardly. Indeed, as the former head of the family, if he did not have the ability to survive in a place like Sea City, how could the Ouyang family become one of the few great family heads? Remember, after completing the mission, immediately leave. Wait outside the capital for my return. At that time, we can return to the Holy World. Hearing this, Ouyang Zheng nodded and bowed. "I will remember, young master. This subordinate will definitely complete the mission you gave me." N. He waved his hand and let Ouyang Zheng leave with Fan Jun. Only the Scarlet Flame Tiger, Zhongli, and him were left in the field. Now, the matter had basically been resolved. His gaze landed on Zhongli. Regarding the netherworld, he still had to rely on her. After all, he did not know the way to the netherworld. Zhongli was also a smart person. When he saw Lin Rei's gaze, he subconsciously understood and said, "Senior, this junior is very honored to lead the way for you." Looking at her, Lin Rei smiled and nodded. "Little tiger, let's go." Let's go to the underworld and see how strong the cultivators here are. Awoo. The scarlet flame tiger, who had been impatient for a long time, growled and nodded. Brother Lei, we should have gone a long time ago. Living in such a comfortable environment every day, I'm almost bored to death. As he spoke, the scarlet flame tiger grumbled. Lin Rei wasn't dissatisfied with this at all. On the contrary, he felt that the scarlet flame tiger was right. As a cultivator, he was supposed to go against the heavens. If he didn't advance, he would fall behind. Cultivators should live with the kind of experience that accompanied killing and lingered on the edge of life and death. Only then could they comprehend a higher level of cultivation and stimulate their own potential, thus improving their great Tao perfectly. However, since coming to the empty nether territory, not to mention opponents, it was rare to see a cultivator. Happy was a small cultivator who hadn't reached the Golden Core realm. Lin Rei couldn't help but feel very disappointed. Even in the Dharma-ending age of Aqua Blue Planet, there was a group of nascent soul realm cultivators who could transcend the tribulation. However, here, let's go. With that, Lin Rei came to the back of the scarlet flame tiger. Lin Rei also wrapped Zhongli with his spirit qi and threw her into the air. With Zhongli leading the way, Lin Rei wasn't worried at all. Of course, his biggest confidence was that he had recovered his cultivation and improved it to the peak of the Tao fruit realm. Given his current level of power, even if he were to encounter a powerful demonic beast, Linli would definitely be able to kill it. Not to mention this empty nether territory. In the Emperor's equal mansion, Ouyang Zheng brought Fan Jun to the room he had stayed in before. He stopped him and reminded him, remember your mission. You must provoke a battle between the Emperor and the Emperor. Don't look at how Fan Jun was just a commander. His position in the prince's mansion was still very important. Fan Jun nodded. Understood. I will definitely complete the mission given by Master. Okay. All right. In that case, you can stay here. I'll leave first. After saying that, without waiting for Fan Jun's response, he turned around and disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was tens of thousands of meters high in the sky, sitting quietly. In the room, looking at the furniture that had not changed at all, a smile flashed across his face. It seems that Aunt Meng often comes to help clean. There was no dust in the room. He didn't need to think to know who was helping him clean. Of course, when he thought of Aunt Meng's feelings for Li Jiping, his originally high mood instantly fell into the abyss. Forget it. The most important task is still to complete the mission given by Zhu Teng. With that thought, he got up and walked out of the room. As a commander in the past, he still had his own subordinates and army. Although these troops belonged to the Emperor's equal mansion, they still listened to his orders. This time, he was going to bring this army to create chaos in the capital. This time, he was going to make the Emperor's equal mansion go to war with the Emperor. He believed that as long as he stirred things up, he would definitely be able to achieve his goal. Of course, this was only a last resort. After all, if he did so, he might lose his life because of this. Sigh. With a sigh, he sped up and quickly left the city. He came to a military camp not far away from the city. This was the army of the Emperor's equal mansion. Similarly, it was also the army he had once led. At the entrance of the military camp, 6 soldiers stood on both sides. They were very straight. Although the sun was high in the sky and they were wearing armor, they were still fearless. You are, Commander Fan? When Fan Jun arrived, the moment the 6 soldiers saw Fan Jun, they were stunned. One of the youngest soldiers called out Fan Jun's identity with a doubtful expression. Commander Fan? The young soldier's words pulled the other 5 soldiers back to reality. They looked at Fan Jun in disbelief. They had all heard about Fan Jun being imprisoned. Breaking into the palace alone and assassinating the Emperor of Hong Tian. What kind of crime was that? They had heard that he was imprisoned by the Emperor. But now, while everyone was doubting him, Fan Jun came in front of them and looked at them. He smiled and said, "You guys, I have only been away for a while. Why? Have you forgotten about me? Hearing this, the 6 of them scratched their heads awkwardly. Indeed, they used to drink together often. However, they had heard about Fan Jun's situation. Now that they saw him in person, they found it unbelievable. All right. Looking at the 6 of them, Fan Jun couldn't help but smile. He waved at them and said, "Let's talk later. I am here for an important matter." As he spoke, he stepped into the military camp without waiting for them to speak. Why did this guy come out? Didn't we hear that he was imprisoned by the emperor? I don't know. But since he can come out, it means that the emperor has gotten over him. That's impossible. He tried to assassinate the emperor. He is not a profligate son of the royal capital. How could the emperor release him so easily? The 6 of them looked at each other. In the end, they didn't get a good answer and chose to remain silent. After all, this wasn't something they should be discussing. Their job was to guard the entrance of the military camp. That was all. In the military camp, Fan Jun arrived at the commander's tent with ease. Along the way, he met familiar people and naturally greeted them warmly. The moment he entered the commander's tent, he saw the person sitting on the commander's seat. Aunt Meng? Aunt Meng, who was working with her head lowered, heard the familiar voice and looked up. When she saw Fan Jun, she froze on the spot. Aunt Meng's eyes were filled with confusion and surprise. Others might not know, but as a retainer of the emperor's residence, she naturally knew. Not long ago, Fan Jun used unknown direction. At that time, the emperor's residence even sent out secret guards to search for him. However, they found nothing. But now? This fellow appeared on his own. Furthermore, he appeared in the military camp in uniform. What was he doing? What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? Fan Jun joked when he saw Aunt Meng in a daze. Then, he walked over and sat across from Aunt Meng. Then, he reached out and picked up the teacup on the table, pouring himself a cup of tea. Aunt Meng recovered her senses and looked at Fan Jun. She felt that this was somewhat unreal. A person who disappeared for a few months suddenly appeared. There was no news of him for the past few months. Even the emperor's residence didn't know where he went. Now, he suddenly appeared. How was she supposed to deal with this? Xiao Chen understood what Aunt Meng meant. However, he did not explain too much about it. After all, there was no need to. Although he knew that Aunt Meng knew about Lin Rei and Ouyangzhen's existence. Aunt Meng, I've troubled you to clean my room during this period. However, as Xiao Chen spoke, his expression suddenly turned serious. This time, I have something important to do. As Xiao Chen spoke, he stood up and walked to the bookshelf at the side. He reached out and opened the small wooden box on the bookshelf. Then, he took out a tiger head token and turned around, intending to leave. What are you doing? The moment Xiao Chen turned around, Aunt Meng's voice rang out in the tent. If one listened carefully, one would be able to hear the worry in Aunt Meng's voice. Unfortunately, Fan Jun was focused on completing Ouyangzhen's mission. Hence, he did not notice the worry in her voice. Without turning around, Xiao Chen replied in a low voice, "Killing people. Since your highness is not making a decision, as your subordinate, I naturally have to help your highness wake up." You. Aunt Meng was shocked. She understood that her thoughts were correct. Fan Jun was really going to do that. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at the worried Aunt Meng. A smile appeared on his face as he said, "Don't worry. This time, I will make your highness realize that the Hong clan is not suitable to be the emperor of Hong Tian. After being in power for so long, their insides have completely rotted. It is time for a change." As Xiao Chen spoke, he walked out of the tent, leaving behind a stunned Aunt Meng. Outside the tent, Fan Jun came to the soldier roll call platform. He had made many important decisions here. Now that he stepped on it again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. Xiao Chen raised his hand and looked at the tiger head token. His eyes were filled with determination. He raised his head and looked at the soldiers who were training. Gather. Rumble. Once the order was given, all the soldiers, regardless of whether they were training or resting, came to the soldier roll call platform at the fastest speed. They stood still in silence and waited for the commander's order. The entire process took less than 2 minutes. Fan Jun was quite satisfied with this speed. After all, 30,000 people were definitely not a small force. Looking at the orderly and energetic soldiers, Xiao Chen raised his hand and flashed the tiger head token. He said, "Next, my orders are greater than the heavens. Therefore, the first mission I will give you is to march into the capital." What? This, just as Fan Jun finished speaking, all the commanders were speechless. They looked at each other. Marching into the capital was not a small matter. If there was an order from above, it might not be a big deal. However, if they acted on their own, it would be considered a rebellion. If someone obtained the throne, this crime would be a great crime that would implicate their entire family. Hearing the discussions of the people below, Fan Jun's face turned gloomy. When he was on the throne, military discipline was strict. How could such a situation occur? However, it was different now. All of you, shut up. I haven't seen you for a while. Are you itching for a beating? Hearing this, the discussions below stopped. Looking at Fan Jun's angry gaze, the 30,000 people lowered their heads and did not dare to make a sound. Humph, look at how spoiled you are. Seeing that no one spoke, Fan Jun continued, "In short, listen to me. If you succeed, you will be promoted. If you fail, you won't have lived in vain. Of course, this time, I am not asking you to enter the palace. I just want to teach the officials and generals in the capital a lesson. They have been living too comfortably and have forgotten the hardships they went through when the Hongtian Empire was first established." Furthermore, at this point, Fan Jun paused for a moment before continuing, "His Highness is famous. He is more suitable to be the emperor of the Hongtian Empire." Hearing this, the expressions of the people below changed. Indeed, everyone agreed with Fan Jun's words. They had had enough of Hong Ji's anger. However, Li Jiping had been tolerating it. Until now, everyone was still being bullied and unable to stand out. Seeing that everyone was silent, Fan Jun did not waste any more words. "The command seal is here. You will be under my command. Next, all soldiers, march into the capital." At this moment, in a corner not far away, Aunt Meng saw everything that Fan Jun did. Without thinking much, she wrote a letter and reported the situation to Li Jiping for him to make the decision. 10,000 meters up in the air, everything Fan Jun was doing was within Ouyang Zhang's field of vision. He didn't try to stop Fan Jun, because this was the only way he could complete the mission Linley had given him more quickly. Go ahead. Next, the entire capital is your territory. If anyone tries to stop you, I don't mind helping to settle it. Chapter 1306. Fan Jun did not know that Ouyang Zhen, who was 10,000 meters up in the sky, was watching his every move. In the camp, Fan Jun and the 30,000 soldiers were waiting. However, trouble had come. Aunt Meng knew the purpose of Fan Jun's actions. After sending a message to Li Jiping, she came to the main gate of the camp. She stood there with a sword and looked coldly at the camp. She wanted to stop Fan Jun from doing something stupid. She knew that if she let Fan Jun and the 30,000 soldiers out, they would die. Fan Jun's actions were like rebellion. Not only that, if Hong Ji used this reason to convict Li Jiping, it would be too late. She would not allow such a situation to happen. Of course, half of the reason was because she did not want to lose Fan Jun as a good friend. Fan Jun led the army to the main gate. When he saw Aunt Meng standing there, the army suddenly stopped. Fan Jun frowned and looked at her. He felt helpless. He had expected such an outcome, but, normally, he would listen to Aunt Meng's opinion. After all, Ouyang Zhen and the others were not around at that time. He knew the problem between Li Jiping and Hong Ji. However, after confirming that Ouyang Zhen and the others really wanted to help Li Jiping unify the country, he did not suppress it anymore. Of course, he knew that no matter what the outcome was, he would die in the end. However, if he could use his death to help Li Jiping, he felt that it was worth it. It was very worth it. Therefore, let me do it. You can't stop me. He shook his head helplessly. However, his hand was on the sword at his waist. It was as if he was ready to attack at any time. Aunt Meng saw Fan Jun's actions clearly. Her heart sank, and her expression turned ugly. Fan Jun, do you know what the outcome will be if you do this? Do you know that if you do this, the 30,000 soldiers will eventually get married? They have their families, relatives, and friends. If you do this, you will undoubtedly push them to the edge of death. Don't you feel guilty for doing this? Fan Jun fell silent. Indeed, he knew that if he did this, the worst outcome would be that the entire army would be wiped out. However, he had no way out. However, Auntie Meng did not stop at Fan Jun's silence. She raised her hand and pointed at the soldiers beside Fan Jun. With an agitated expression, she said, "Look at them. They were once comrades who fought alongside you. Brother, by doing this, you..." "Enough, stop talking." Fan Jun shouted angrily to stop her, but Auntie Min continued to speak. Naturally, he could not change his mind about what he had already decided. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at his brothers behind him. His heart clenched, and he made up his mind. Then, he turned around and looked at Auntie Wei. With a clang, Fan Jun did not waste any more words. He drew his sword and pointed it at Aunt Meng. The last bit of tenderness in his eyes was forcefully suppressed. Do it. In the end, our thoughts will never be the same. Since that's the case, there's no point in saying more. If you defeat me, you will become what you imagine. As he spoke, he leaned forward and held his sword horizontally in front of his chest. The soldiers behind him knew that Fan Jun was about to make a move. On the battlefield, Fan Jun had once slaughtered the enemy army in such a manner. Now that he had appeared again, he would definitely fight with his life on the line. Aunt Meng understood Fan Jun's current actions even more. At this moment, she felt an indescribable pain in her heart. You want to attack me? Looking at Fan Jun, Auntie Meng asked with a somewhat pale face. Let's fight. Whoosh. Right after Xiao Chen said that, he instantly charged out and turned into a beam of light. He instantly arrived before Aunt Meng. At this moment, the only thought in his mind was to defeat Aunt Meng and then proceed with his plan. Seeing Fan Jun before her, Aunt Meng's expression changed drastically. A trace of disbelief flashed across her face. With a clang, before Aunt Meng could be distracted, Xiao Chen's sword passed over her head and instantly clashed with Fan Jun's sword. Are you crazy? Xiao Chen had really made a move. This was a scene that she had never imagined before. The pain in her heart became even more obvious. There's no other way. Looking at Aunt Meng, Fan Jun shook his head. A trace of helplessness flashed across his face. There was indeed no other way. If he wanted to complete his plan, he had to deal with Aunt Meng first. Just give up. You are not my opponent. After saying that, Xiao Chen's sword separated. Without waiting for Aunt Meng to react, Xiao Chen's sword strangely dodged Aunt Meng's sword. In the end, Xiao Chen's sword was placed at Aunt Meng's throat. You've lost. After going through the baptism of Lin Rei's 2 elixirs, it was impossible for an ordinary person to not improve at all. Moreover, Fan Jun was a commander who had been on the battlefield for a long time. Even Li Jiping, who was both a marshal and a prince, wouldn't be able to last long against Fan Jun. Feeling the iciness coming from her throat, Aunt Meng understood that she had lost. However, she didn't believe that she would lose so quickly. In the past, she was on par with Fan Jun. But now, It hadn't been long since they last met. She didn't understand how Fan Jun could be so strong. If Fan Jun knew what Aunt Meng was thinking, he would probably sneer. When he was fighting with Aunt Meng earlier, Fan Jun had only used less than 10% of his strength. If Aunt Meng knew about this, who knew what she would think? However, it was fine. She wouldn't know. Men. Without replying to Aunt Meng, Xiaochen started to speak. Two soldiers broke away from the absolute encirclement and came before Fan Jun. They bowed respectfully. Commander. Lock her up. Release her after the army enters the royal capital. After saying that, the two soldiers moved aside. The two soldiers took Aunt Meng from Fan Jun's hands and nodded to Fan Jun. Then, they turned around and walked towards the military camp. Fan Jun, you will kill them by doing this. You. Don't be stubborn. The matters of the prince are not something small people like us can interfere with. If you do this, you want me. What do you want me to do? Hearing this, Fan Jun, who was about to continue moving forward, paused. A trace of hesitation flashed in his eyes. If it was in the past, he would give up without hesitation when Aunt Meng said this. In the past, he really wanted to tie the knot with her. Unfortunately, Aunt Meng's mind was filled with Li Jiping's figure. How could she see his existence? Unfortunately, times had changed. Now, he couldn't give up on that plan because of this. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he couldn't. Let's do this. Fan Jun said with difficulty. After that, he stopped moving and led the army in the direction of the royal capital. The moment he left, Auntie Min's heart felt empty. The words Fan Jun had said before he left lingered in her ears. These words were like a demon's voice, lingering in Auntie Min's mind. No. You can't do this. You will die. You will die. Tears flowed uncontrollably from Aunt Meng's eyes. Her voice was trembling as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out. She sat on the ground, paralyzed. Her eyes were lifeless. How can this be? Just a moment ago, many scenes flashed in her mind. Most of them were how Fan Jun treated her well. In the past, Fan Jun was obedient to her. There was nothing he didn't do. Unfortunately, back then, she only had Li Jiping in her eyes. Fan Jun had never existed. In the past, she only treated Fan Jun as a brother, a friend. However, this thought had changed. Unfortunately, she realized that it was too late. Fan Jun had walked on the path of death. There was no turning back. As for her, she could only watch helplessly as Fan Jun walked on that path of no return. God, why are you doing this to me? Why didn't you let me wake up earlier? Fan Jun roared at the sky. Unfortunately, it was too late. 10,000 meters in the sky, everything that happened was seen by Ouyang Zheng. The corner of his mouth curled up and a smile flashed. Why do people only know how to cherish things when they are about to lose them? In front of the royal capital, it was still the same as before. Crowds came and went, and no one noticed that something was wrong today. In front of the city gate, a group of soldiers was patrolling as usual. All of them had smiles on their faces. Perhaps they had never thought that there would be a day when an army would appear directly in front of them. Or perhaps, they thought that they were in the royal capital. Since the royal capital had Li Jiping's protection, it was impossible for it to become a battlefield. Therefore, they were living very comfortably. Not far away, Fan Jun led the army. He held a sword in his hand and was filled with killing intent. He walked step by step toward the city gate. At this moment, in front of the city gate, the captain of a group of guards was talking and laughing with his team members. Suddenly, he glanced into the distance. In the distance, a huge crowd was neatly lining up and walking towards these few tables. Only at this moment did he notice that the ground beneath his feet was trembling slightly. The smile on his face disappeared instantly. He stood up and raised his head, focusing his gaze into the distance. What's going on? Looking at the approaching army, he was dumbfounded. He didn't receive any notice, nor did he hear about the defeat at the border. Why would an army appear here? Something's not right. At this moment, his previous thoughts were overturned. In the army, he saw that the soldiers were all wearing Hongtian Empire's armor. This made him even more confused. Quick, close the city gate. Although he didn't know why the other party was here, the only thing he had to do now was to close the city gate. He didn't want to bear the responsibility for a moment of carelessness. Naturally, the soldiers under him saw the approaching army. Hearing the captain's words, they didn't hesitate and dragged everyone into the city. The gates of the royal capital were closed. The captain and the soldiers all came to the top of the city wall. At this moment, standing at a high point, they could see everything clearly. Fan Jun led the army to the city gate. He raised his head and looked at the people standing on the city wall. He frowned and said coldly, "Open the city gate." Fan Jun's figure fell into the eyes of the captain. Being in the royal capital, he was naturally familiar with the important figures in the royal capital. He also recognized Fan Jun. When he saw Fan Jun holding his sword and shouting for the gate to open, he knew that the situation was beyond his imagination. Lowering his head, the captain looked at Fan Jun with a gloomy face. He had heard of Fan Jun's previous actions. Assassinating the emperor was a serious crime. Now, he was leading an army to the city gate. What was he trying to do? Fan Jun, do you know the consequences of doing this? The captain spoke. Heh. Consequences? He recognized the person on the city wall. It was Zhang Yong, a commander who used to be on the battlefield. However, because of a fight, his internal organs were injured. In the end, he had no choice but to retreat behind the scenes and become one of the captains in the royal capital. Looking at Zhang Yong, Fan Jun sneered, "Zhang Yong, I respect you as a man, so I'll give you a chance. Open the city gate, and I won't make things difficult for you today." But suddenly, his face turned cold, completely different from before. "If you don't open the gate today, then don't blame me for not giving you face." There were absolute forces in the royal capital. However, they were like hothouses who talked too much and had never experienced the slaughter of the battlefield. He didn't care about such an army. "You, Fan Jun, are you really going to do that?" Zhang Yong understood that if he opened the gate today, his crime would be unforgivable. Even his wife and children behind him would be implicated because of this matter. However, he knew that the military strength in the royal capital was not enough to fight against the army in front of him. He could clearly feel it from the aura. One was like a gentle cat, obedient and gentle. The other was like a lion in the hunting ground. One careless mistake could lead to death. 3. Not wasting any more words with Zhang Yong, he gave the final deadline. "Fan Jun, you, too. Fan Jun, don't be stupid. What's the point of doing this? The emperor's equal is at the border. If you do this, does the emperor know about it? Will he allow you to do this?" Zhang Yong spoke, using the emperor's equal as a deterrent. Unfortunately, if it was the old Fan Jun, he might have retreated because of this sentence. Unfortunately, the current Fan Jun was helping Li Jiping in order to complete Ouyangzhen's mission. Therefore, he didn't care about what Zhang Yong said. 1. After the last count, he pointed his sword at Zhang Yong. A surge of qi that even he didn't understand instantly surged into his limbs and bones. He bent his right leg and fiercely kicked. With a muffled bang, the ground under Fan Jun's feet cracked. The moment Fan Jun's body cracked, a miracle happened. Fan Jun's body soared into the sky and appeared in front of Zhang Yong in an instant. Zhang Yong was dumbfounded. What was this operation? What kind of ability was this? What the hell? 10,000 meters in the sky, looking down, a smile appeared on his face when he saw Fan Jun's action. I didn't expect Fan Jun to have such a fortuitous encounter. 2 types of pills actually gave him such an ability. Looking at Fan Jun, he narrowed his eyes and muttered, "Does this count as stepping into the ranks of cultivators?" Fan Jun didn't know what kind of ability this was, but he knew that this ability made him feel very good. It was a feeling he had never felt before. Raising his head, Fan Jun sneered at Zhang Yong and said with disdain, "You can't stop it. Today, the entire capital is in chaos. I advise you to hurry up and go home." After saying that, he walked down. When he passed by, Zhang Yong's subordinates didn't dare to stop him. The scene just now was enough to prove that he wasn't Fan Jun's opponent. None of them were Fan Jun's opponent. Without any obstruction, Fan Jun arrived at the city gate. He raised his hand and used force to open the gate. Looking at the troops waiting outside, a smile appeared on his face. He waved his hand and said, "Come, let me see your ability. Today, I want all the enemies of the Emperor to die." Chapter 1307. Woo-woo. 30,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Suddenly, the entire royal city, both inside and outside, was awed by this shout. In the imperial palace, Hongji, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened by the shouts of 30,000 soldiers. Lying on the bed, he frowned and turned his head with a cold expression. He shouted, "Men! Jia!" The door was pushed open and a servant walked in. He walked slowly to Hongji's bed and knelt on the ground, trembling. As Hongji's servant, he knew Hongji's temperament very well. He heard the shouts just now. Hongji's cold expression naturally meant that it was because of that shout. "Your Majesty, what's going on? Didn't the Emperor say that when the Emperor is sleeping, he shouldn't be disturbed?" The servant was even more frightened. He wanted to explain, but he didn't know where the shouts came from. "Speak," Hongji said coldly. He wanted an explanation. He wanted to kill the person in front of him to vent his anger. "Your Majesty, it's not good." Just as Hongji was waiting for the servant's answer, a hurried voice came from outside the door. Then, a chamberlain of imperial insignia rushed in. "HM?" Seeing the chamberlain of imperial insignia's anxious expression, Hongji frowned. He didn't understand what was going on today. Why was there always something going wrong? He was already very unhappy that he was woken up. He didn't expect the chamberlain of imperial insignia, who was usually very disciplined, to be like this. "Put on." The chamberlain of imperial insignia came in front of Hongji and kowtowed. "Your Majesty, there was a report just now. Fan Jun led 30,000 soldiers and broke through the gates of the capital. They are wantonly slaughtering in the city." "What?" Hongji sat up straight on the bed and stared at the chamberlain of imperial insignia in disbelief. He remembered Fan Jun. However, in his memory, wasn't Fan Jun imprisoned by Li Jiping? Furthermore, he heard that Fan Jun had disappeared. How could he be now? No, where did the 30,000 soldiers come from? How could Fan Jun have broken through the gates? Also, wasn't the gate guarded by guards? Where were the guards? What was Li Jiping trying to do? Thinking of Li Jiping, Hongji's heart calmed down a lot. Thinking that Li Jiping would not return this time, he felt much better. However, the most urgent matter now was the 30,000 soldiers. With that thought in mind, he raised his head and looked at the chamberlains of imperial insignia. "Go, pass down the Emperor's order. Order the chamberlains of imperial insignia and the city gate guards to gather all the troops in the city and capture Fan Jun. Anyone who kills Fan Jun will be rewarded with the title of Marquis of 10,000 households." The so-called way of the Emperor was nothing more than this. Hongji did not feel that this reward was heavy at all. After all, the title of Marquis of 10,000 households was just a title. As for what the final reward would be, it was up to him to decide. The moment these words were spoken, the Jianghu Guard commander became excited. Marquis of 10,000 households was much more precious than a mere commander of the Jianghu Guard. Imagining himself as the Marquis of 10,000 households, some kind of twinkling star, his heart was burning. Yes, Your Majesty. After saying that, the commander of the chamberlains of Jianghu turned around and left. Because of Hong Ji's order, the entire royal palace became lively. There were not many chamberlains of Jianghu, only around 5,000 in total. On the other hand, there were quite a number of guards at the city gate, around 15,000 in total. Of course, compared to 30,000, the chamberlains of Jianghu were still very confident. After all, who wouldn't want to be the master of the chamberlains of 10,000 households? Who wouldn't want to be respected by others? Of course, Fan Jun was completely unaware of this. At this moment, the first place Fan Jun went to was the Minister of War's residence. He thought back to how during the war, the Minister of War's greed had caused the entire army to starve for 7 days. During those 7 days, some of the soldiers had eaten tree bark, some had eaten their own horses, and some had even started eating human flesh. Fan Jun had always been brooding over this matter. In his heart, he hated the Minister of War to the bone. However, this Li Jiping was too cowardly, so he had yet to take revenge. Now, the Minister of War was the first person he wanted to kill. In the eastern part of the city, Fan Jun led the soldiers directly to the Minister of War's residence. 30,000 soldiers had completely sealed off the Minister of War's residence. Not even a fly could fly in. It could be said that the residence was impregnable. Jia. The door opened and the Minister of War, Lu Wei, walked out. He glanced at the soldiers in front of him and a trace of fear flashed across his eyes. However, when he remembered that he was in the imperial capital, that fear disappeared. He straightened his back and looked coldly at Fan Jun. He said coldly, "Fan Jun, since Li Jiping didn't imprison you, it seems like he's going to rebel." Fan Jun didn't take Lu Wei's words to heart. As for Li Jiping's rebellion, he wouldn't admit it. After all, only by succeeding would he be able to do whatever he wanted. Now, wasn't the time. He raised his head and looked at Lu Wei. The coldness in his eyes was like a cold knife, mercilessly moving around Lu Wei's body. "Lu Wei, do you still remember what happened at the border?" Among the 30,000 soldiers, a portion of them had survived that battle. Therefore, when they saw the Minister of War, they had the urge to rush up and eat him alive. Unfortunately, Fan Jun didn't make a move. They could only endure it. After all, Fan Jun was the highest commander in the army. "You," Lu Wei said coldly. He might not remember other things, but he remembered what happened back then very clearly. At that time, he was possessed and almost made a huge mistake. Fortunately, Hong Jiping held him back, allowing him to have his current achievements. You don't need to know other things. You only need to know that you. Fan Jun walked up to Lu Wei and lowered his head to Lu Wei's ear. He continued, "You chose the wrong side, so you naturally have to pay the price. Old and new debts will be settled together. The entire Lu clan will be destroyed today." Fan Jun waved his hand and said to the 30,000 soldiers, "Brothers who experienced that battle, the enemies are right in front of you. Kill them and avenge your brothers who died. Revenge, revenge." At this moment, Fan Jun could be said to have hundreds of people responding to his call. With a wave of his hand, the 3,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Without a doubt, they were the survivors of that battle. Kill. Behind the scenes, more than 3,000 soldiers charged towards the Minister of War's residence. As for the Assistant Minister of War, Lu Wei, I was grabbed by Fan Jun. My face was red as I looked at Fan Jun in disbelief. If he was fearless before, now his fear had reached its peak. He didn't expect Fan Jun to kill an important official of the imperial court in the capital. What kind of guts was this? What kind of courage was this? Chapter 1308. A great reshuffle was about to happen. The entire capital was in full swing because of Fan Jun's actions. It was very lively. On the other side, in the empty nether region, in the opposite direction of Heavenly King Hong's city, a man, a woman, and a demonic beast were strolling in a mountain range. Senior, not far ahead is the entrance to the underworld. There are two strange beasts guarding it. If you don't have a special token, I'm afraid you'll be devoured. Zhongli looked at Lin Rei and subconsciously told him what she knew. Lin Rei, who was walking forward, stopped and turned to look at Zhongli. A hint of interest flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he was interested in the strange beast that Zhongli mentioned. A woo. A tiger roar came out of the scarlet flame tiger's mouth. It stared at Zhongli with a hint of disdain. Strange beast, humph. The scarlet flame tiger obviously didn't care about the strange beast that Zhongli mentioned. In this world, how strong could a demonic beast be? Say. Senior, Zhongli's legs went soft and she couldn't walk anymore. She had been with these two experts every day and her life was very restrained. Although the food she ate was better than what she ate before, but the other party was too strong. The aura that they casually emitted was not something that a small cultivator like her could resist. On the side, Lin Rei felt the same as Zhongli. He waved his hand, this matter ends here. As for the strange beast, we'll talk about it later. As he spoke, his gaze fell on the scarlet flame tiger and said seriously, Little tiger, although your strength can keep up, but remember, this world is very big and very mysterious. Don't just look at the surface. If there are no experts in this world, how can it not be eroded? Don't you feel that the spiritual energy here is very rich? Moreover, there is a faint Tao rhyme flowing in the space. The scarlet flame tiger choked. This world is not as simple as you think. I believe that there are experts here. Moreover, you might not be a match for them. As he spoke, he looked at the sky. Lin Rei was right. This world was not as simple as it looked. If they had known earlier, they would have come from the saints' world. Their auras were so powerful, yet they did not attract the Tendo of this world. There were usually two reasons for such a situation. First, Tendo was truly afraid of them. Secondly, it meant that the heavenly Tao did not care about their cultivation levels. Between these two outcomes, he was more inclined towards the latter. If Tendo's strength was weak, he might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. Seeing Lin Rei's serious expression, the scarlet flame tiger knew that it was wrong. It nodded repeatedly and promised, Elder Brother Lei, I won't dare to do it again. As he spoke, he lowered his head and walked forward, leaving behind Lin Rei and Zhongli. In response, Lin Rei helplessly shook his head and waved at Zhongli to continue forward. Inside the Heavenly King of Hong, Fan Jun killed everyone in Lu Wei's residence. Suddenly, the smell of blood filled the streets. Lu Wei was slapped to death by Fan Jun. Just like that, the assistant minister of the Ministry of War of Hongtian Empire, Lu Wei, died without a shred of dignity. After the matter was settled, everyone gathered at the entrance. Originally, the 3,000 soldiers were unhappy with Fan Jun's actions. However, after what happened just now, they were completely convinced by him. Because Fan Jun gave them a chance to take revenge. That was all. Commander, who's next? Perhaps because the beast in the soldier's heart had been completely unleashed, someone asked as soon as everyone gathered outside. When everyone heard this, all eyes were focused on Fan Jun. The corner of his mouth curled up and a bloodthirsty look flashed across his face. Since Assistant Minister of War Lu Wei is dead, his father-in-law is next. Father-in-law? Everyone's head was filled with question marks. They were not in the royal capital, so they did not know who Lu Wei's father-in-law was. Could it be? Asked one of the soldiers in shock. He had once heard that Lu Wei's father-in-law was the imperial uncle. That was a person who had once been a very famous person. However, it was a pity that he had once oppressed Li Jiping and Li Jiping's army. It seems like you know. Looking at the shocked soldier, a strange look flashed across Fan Jun's eyes. He smiled and continued, the current imperial uncle, Zhong Shanxiong. Boom! Zhong Shanxiong's name lingered in the ears of the 30,000 soldiers. It was like a demon's voice that could not be dispelled. Zhong Shanxiong was once an overlord. However, for some reason, he submitted to the previous emperor. Now, he could be considered as a major figure of two dynasties. The scariest thing about Zhong Shanxiong was that he could kill without blinking. There were rumors that Zhong Shanxiong could cut off the flow of a lake with a single slash. That's right. Fan Jun understood what they were thinking. However, if he wanted to come, it would be difficult. He felt that Zhong Shanxiong could be his second target. Over the years, those old fellows had been hostile to Li Jiping. Just based on that point, he could not indulge them. Without waiting for anyone to react, Fan Jun took the lead and walked off into the distance. "Commander, wait for us." Seeing Fan Jun leave, everyone's hearts turned cold. They hastily followed. At this moment, the Jianghu guard had led the city guards. When he heard that the Ministry of War had been killed, he immediately changed directions. He had thought that he would be able to make it in time, but unfortunately, he was too late. "Let's go." Sensing that his blood was still warm, he immediately rushed in the direction of the sound, leading more than 10,000 soldiers. Not long after, the two sides finally met. He stood where he was, looking at Fan Jun in the distance. With a roar, he unsheathed his long blade and charged at Fan Jun, his face ferocious. When he turned around and saw the figure charging over, a cold smile appeared on his face. He said to the surrounding people, "This is a personal grudge. If anyone dares to help, kill them without mercy." As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed it at the head of the Chamberlain of Chamberlain of Chamberlain of Chamberlain. Jianghu. Suddenly, inexplicably, a white ray of light rushed out at an extremely fast speed. "Die. Get lost." When the commander of the Golden Guard saw the white light, he raised his long saber and rushed towards it. Pung! After a muffled sound, a figure was sent flying. The scarlet light in the air was very eye-catching. Put on. The black figure landed on the ground. After the dust settled, the Jianghu guard was lying on the ground. His face was pale and he coughed up blood. His body was trembling as he looked at Fan Jun. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't understand what kind of energy could make him so miserable that he couldn't even take a single blow. Chapter 1309. In an instant, the crowd was in an uproar. The chamberlains of Jin and the city gate guards who thought that they could suppress everything became uncertain. The scene just now was too dramatic. Especially the strength that Fan Jun used just now. It was not ordinary at all. It seemed to have exceeded their imagination. At this moment, everyone no longer looked at Fan Jun with disdain and ridicule. Instead, they looked at him with respect and reverence. In all worlds, the principle of the strong being respected was unchangeable. The strong were respected. The weak could only be at the bottom of the world and look up to the strong at the top. In the eyes of the soldiers, Fan Jun had already become the existence at the top of their world. He was unreachable. Under the gazes of the crowd, Fan Jun walked up to the commander of the chamberlains of Jin and looked down at the person lying on the ground like a dead dog. He sneered in his heart. When was there a time when the chamberlains of Jin were high and mighty and looked down on them? Because they were the personal guards of Hongji, their status was higher than others. Unfortunately, what about now? In Fan Jun's eyes, the commander of the chamberlains of Jin was a dead dog, a lackey that no one wanted. Looking at the commander, Fan Jun said in a cold voice, "Isn't it good to bring him along in the palace? Isn't it better to stay at home? Why come out and find trouble for yourself?" Indeed, if the chamberlains of Jin weren't greedy and wanted to become the Marquis of 10,000, they might still be living a peaceful life with a wife and children. Unfortunately, they couldn't start all over again. Today, the commander of the chamberlains of Jin would have to pay the price for his greed. He raised his head with difficulty and looked at Fan Jun in horror. He didn't expect Fan Jun to be so terrifying. Furthermore, what are you trying to do? I am His Majesty's personal guard. Do you dare to kill me? As soon as those words came out, Everyone looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. At this time, you're still trying to cause trouble. Why don't you think about it properly? Since you dared to bring soldiers in, you must not be afraid of Hongji. Doing this will only increase the other party's desire to kill you. Puchi. The sound of flesh being cut rang out. Suddenly, the scene became very quiet. Everyone looked at the commander of the chamberlains of Jin. Some couldn't believe it, some took it for granted, some were shocked, and some felt relieved. At this moment, everyone's gazes were different. It was very interesting. Gurgle gurgle. A strange sound rang out, and everyone's gazes were drawn over. What they saw was a head rolling on the ground. It was none other than the commander of the House of Golden Guards who had been beheaded by Fan Jun. Even after his death, he still couldn't believe that Fan Jun would really dare to make a move on him. What a pity. If he had known this before, he wouldn't have ended up like this. After doing all this, he turned his head to look at the crowd. Looking at them, he really didn't want to start a massacre. Although he was here to kill people today, it had nothing to do with them. Fan Jun looked at the crowd, and his voice was transmitted into the ears of all the students from second high school. Everyone, I have come less this time because I have no intention of being your enemy. I have come less this time mainly because I want to settle some personal grudges. So, if everyone can give me some face and leave now, if everyone insists on stopping me, as he spoke, he swept his gaze over the crowd. Then, he raised his long saber and swung it to the side. Swoosh. Pung. A loud sound rang out. In the direction where Fan Jun swung his saber, a 3-meter-long saber mark appeared. Hiss. When everyone looked over, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their hearts were shocked to the extreme. What kind of power was this? What kind of method was this? This question appeared in everyone's mind. Perhaps they didn't know that even Fan Jun himself had the same thought. He knew that this might have something to do with the 2 kinds of medicinal pills he had eaten before. He could feel that this energy didn't make him afraid. On the contrary, it made him feel very comfortable. Everyone, what do you think? Looking at the crowd, he waited for their reply. At this moment, the long saber in his hand was placed horizontally in front of his chest. It was as if he was saying that if they agreed, they would be safe and sound. If they didn't, he would kill them. This action was seen by everyone. Suddenly, the House of Golden Guards who rarely came were the first to give up on guarding. At this moment, they only wanted to leave the area around Fan Jun. As for the mission given to them by Hongji, under the pressure of Fan Jun's aura, they had already forgotten about it. The House of Golden Guards will leave. After saying this, the vice commander of the House of Golden Guards led the rest of the House of Golden Guards away, heading towards the Imperial Palace. As for the city gate guards, they were even more tactful. Even the House of Golden Guards had left, so what use was there for them to stay here? Of course, there was still one use, and that was to tell the entire Heavenly King's city that Fan Jun was not to be trifled with. And today's matter was even more out of their hands. Just like this, the 2 groups of people came quickly and left quickly. In comparison, Fan Jun didn't feel anything. After the House of Golden Guards and the others left, Fan Jun led the army forward. During this time, all the people in the royal city who had once been enemies with Li Jiping received news of Lu Wei's death from the Ministry of War. In the royal city, more than half of the officials began to think of a way out for themselves. Those who could become officials in the royal city were naturally very smart. After receiving news of Lu Wei's death from the Ministry of War, they sensed that something was different. Especially the direction that Fan Jun was heading in. That was the direction that the imperial uncle was at. It was easy to imagine what he wanted to do. Each and every one of them usually acted so arrogant, but now, when their lives were threatened, everything changed. While the massacre was happening in the royal city, Li Jiping, who was far away at the border, received a letter from Aunt Meng. After receiving the letter and reading the message, the smile on his face slowly turned serious. In the end, his smile completely disappeared and was replaced with a gloomy expression that was extremely cold. When the middle-aged general saw Li Jiping's change, he couldn't help but ask, "Marshal, what happened to make you like this?" He didn't say anything. Instead, he handed the letter in his hand to the middle-aged general for him to read. What? How could this be? The moment he received the letter and read the contents, the middle-aged general was speechless. Heh, I also find it hard to believe. I don't understand why Fan Jun would do this. Doesn't he understand that he's courting death? Li Jiping said. That's right, how could he do this? Moreover, how could an army of over 30,000 be able to do this in the royal city? The middle-aged general questioned. At this moment, the tent fell into a deathly silence. No one spoke, and everyone fell into deep thought. Chapter 13:10. Report. A shout broke the silence in the tent. The two of them woke up from the silence and looked outside. Li Jiping said, "Come in." The next moment, the soldier at the entrance walked in and stood in front of Li Jiping. He said, "Marshal, we have just received news that the soldiers of the three empires have returned. They also said that they will not attack Hongtian Empire for the next 10 years. Li Jiping, the middle-aged general, this came too suddenly. Just a moment ago, he was still thinking about how to deal with the situation in the capital. Who knew that something like this would happen first? However, why did the three empires suddenly withdraw their troops? There is no accurate information about the reason behind their withdrawal. As the marshal of an army, if he didn't know the real reason why the other party withdrew their troops, he wouldn't return so hastily. If that was the case, he wouldn't have reached where he was today, becoming a prince and marshal of an empire. Towards Li Jiping's question, the kneeling soldier hesitated. He did find out that the other party had withdrawn their troops. However, the news was too strange and impossible. He didn't dare to say it. Li Jiping noticed the soldier's expression and frowned. "Tell me, what's going on?" The moment he said those words, the soldier tilted his body and nodded his head in response. The news that we received previously was due to someone taking the initiative to stop them on their way to the Hongtian Empire. After which, they killed several 100,000 of their men and threatened the marshals of the three empires to not invade the Hongtian Empire for the time being. What? Li Jiping was stunned. Is it possible for one person to kill hundreds of thousands of people? Is it possible? Furthermore, it is related to Hongtian Empire. No matter how he thought about it, this matter might have something to do with Lin Rei and the others. No, Fan Jun, he. Suddenly, Li Jiping thought of a possibility. Now, this matter had occurred here, and Fan Jun had appeared in the royal capital. Didn't this mean that his time had come? In addition, he could sense that there was a pair of hands pulling the strings behind all of this, and this person was naturally Lin Li. As he imagined this, a happy smile appeared on his originally cold and hesitant face. His previous doubts had been completely resolved and he no longer cared about the matters of the capital city. Previously, he hadn't fallen out with Hong Ji because of the matter at the border. Now that the matter at the border had been resolved, he believed that with Lin Rei around, the other empires wouldn't dare to invade for a while. Go, assemble the border troops. Tell the reinforcements you brought this time to bring their own things and accompany this king to the capital. As he spoke, a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. This time, it's time to settle what happened back then. A million miles away, Lin Rei was being led by Zhongli to the entrance to the underworld that Zhongli had mentioned. Within the mountain range, Lin Rei and the others left the cliff and looked up. Before, the continuous mountain range was quite majestic, and this world's unique spiritual chi made Lin Rei feel very comfortable. Where is the entrance? Lin Rei asked. At this moment, they were at a cliff and Zhongli said that this was the entrance. Then, as he thought about this, he looked down at the bottom of the cliff. It was pitch black and there was a lingering fog. It can't be. As he spoke, Zhongli pointed down and expressed his guess. Looking at Lin Rei, Zhongli nodded and said, "Senior, this is the entrance to the underworld. It is also below where the mutated beasts live." As expected. Hearing this, Lin Rei understood. However, he didn't expect that the entrance to the underworld would be in such a place. Moreover, there were mutated beasts. As he thought about this, he turned to look at the flaming tiger. "I've given you the mutated beast. Are you confident?" "Yes, of course." The flaming tiger didn't even think and promised, "Brother Lei, who am I? I am your most loyal subordinate. You have to believe me." As it spoke, it looked down and an undetectable murderous intent began to brew in its eyes. This fellow. Looking at the flaming tiger's battle intent, he was amused. He really didn't care about mutated beasts. However, he just found out that there was a huge existence below. If there were only mutated beasts and the entrance, he might not be so worried. However, as a saint-level array master, he knew too well how malleable Zhenda could be. However, the power of an array was too many. One moment, it was a trap array. The next moment, it could become a shocking killing array. At this moment, he could only pray that the flaming tiger wouldn't be too rash and fail to prove itself. Sigh. He shook his head helplessly and looked at Zhongli. Then, he picked her up and nodded to the flaming tiger beside him before jumping down. Huff, huff, huff. On the way down, a gust of wind flashed past. Lin Rei, who had a defense, didn't notice anything. However, Zhongli didn't. She had a defense, but it was too weak. It was equivalent to having nothing. The fasting period was not worth mentioning in front of this gust of wind. In comparison, seeing Zhongli in such a state, Lin Rei waved his hand and a stream of Saint's spiritual qi covered Zhongli's body. Suddenly, the feeling of being torn apart disappeared and was replaced by a warm feeling. The wound that was torn apart earlier was also slowly recovering under this energy. He turned to the flaming tiger and said, "Flaming tiger, let's go down and see what's going on. I have a feeling that it's not that simple." The flaming tiger didn't hesitate. He also felt that this was just a cliff and there was such a strong energy. From the wind, he could feel that it was at least the power of the nascent soul realm. Although it was slow, it was real. "Don't worry, Brother Lei." Then, he quickly fell down. He wanted to see what was below. Moreover, just now, he vaguely felt the suppression from the bloodline. Although the feeling was brief, it was real. "Humph, little guy. You're lucky that you're so presumptuous in front of me. See how I'll deal with you when I find you later." With indignation in his heart, his body returned to its original form. The falling speed became faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of Lin Rei. "How deep is this cliff?" "It's just a little bit." "Why does it feel like it's endless?" Looking down, Lin Rei muttered to himself. He didn't notice it just now. However, when he saw Flaming Tiger returning to its original form and disappearing after falling, he couldn't help but suspect that there was something strange about this place. "System, investigate this place." "Okay." The system didn't say much. It seemed that it had also noticed that there was something different about this place. So, it seemed that he had to be careful. With that thought, the Chaos Dragon Spear appeared in his hand and he was ready for battle. This action made Zhongli even more nervous. Chapter 13:11. The atmosphere became more and more tense, the atmosphere became more and more strange. Zhong Lijin clearly felt it, but she did not understand why she did not feel anything. The only thing she could feel was that the thing in the abyss was especially strong, so strong that her body could not accept it. "Be careful, there might be something here." Lin Rei's voice transmitted to Zhong Lijin's second middle school. She turned her head and looked at Lin Rei. A strange light flashed through her eyes. She nodded heavily and replied, "Understood, senior." After saying that, the two of them fell into silence. Because Lin Rei was there, Zhong Lijin felt extremely safe and at ease. At the bottom of the abyss, the scarlet flame tiger had returned to its original size. Its body was 100 zhang tall, but even so, it still had not reached the bottom. What exactly is this place, to think that, roar. Suddenly, a bestial roar came from below. Along with the appearance of the bestial roar, a blazing energy rushed out from below. Fuck. The scarlet flame tiger lowered its head and looked down. That blazing energy made it feel extremely uncomfortable, especially the suppression from its bloodline, which made it extremely angry. It did not expect that in such a remote place, there would be a demonic beast with a bloodline purer than its own. Who are you? Get out here. The scarlet flame tiger roared furiously. Suddenly, it rushed down with a surge of energy. Suddenly, the fog that was originally enveloping it dissipated for a moment and recovered. That is, the moment the fog separated, the scarlet flame tiger's gaze locked on. Although it was only for a moment, it was still able to see it clearly. Zhu. How is this possible? For 1,000 years had not only allowed the scarlet flame tiger's cultivation to increase greatly, it had also increased its knowledge by a lot. When it saw the thing in the abyss just now, it was completely stunned. Zhu, a ferocious beast that had existed since an unknown time. It was as if it had existed since the beginning of the world. When the world was created, it had already appeared in the desolate era. Of course, it had only appeared once and did not leave much behind. However, that mere instant was enough for everyone to remember his existence. There was no other reason than his ferocity. When Zhu appeared, the sky changed color. Everything that Zhu did not like would be mercilessly erased by him. Not long after the beginning of the chaotic era, Zhu's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Not necessarily, he had left behind a few words in the book, as well as a portrait of a candle. Unfortunately, the scarlet flame tiger happened to be looking at the existence of Feng Zhu in the system's library. However, he did not dare to believe that the infamous Zhu would actually exist in such a desolate place. Holy shit, that's not right. If that guy is really Zhu, not to mention me, even if Brother Lei were to come, he would likely not be a match for Zhu. The scarlet flame tiger's death was fine, but he didn't want anything to happen to Lin Rei. Brother Lei, Brother Lei? His divine sense and spiritual power instantly turned left and released Dao Extremity in an attempt to contact Lin Rei. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, half a minute had passed. However, there was still no reply from Lin Rei. The scarlet flame tiger was truly anxious. Brother Lei, he called out again, but Lin Rei's voice still did not resound in his mind. Forget it. Seeing that Lin Rei did not give any response, he understood that he could only resign himself to fate this time. The sense of danger that emerged from below grew even stronger. The scarlet flame tiger even felt as if he could see the arrival of the Grim Reaper. Zhu, although your inheritance is mysterious, this king does not believe in evil. Even though he said those words, his heart was trembling. Zhu, that was Zhu, not an ordinary monstrous beast. He did not have the slightest idea of how to defeat Zhu. You, where did you come from? Why does this emperor sense a familiar aura from you? Zhu's voice sounded from below and landed on the scarlet flame tiger second middle school. He frowned and lowered his head to look. A familiar aura. Other than the holy spiritual aura, there shouldn't be anything else. As he thought about this, he released his cultivation. Instantly, it extended downward. He believed that this was the energy that Zhu was talking about. Chaotic era? You came from the chaotic era? The muffled voice sounded again. Previously, he had only guessed. Now, he was certain that the person who spoke was really Zhu. However, this name seemed to be a very distant thing in the untainted age. Chaotic era? The scarlet flame tiger frowned. He recalled the records of Zhu's disappearance from the chaotic era and seemed to have thought of something. He continued, Senior, you left the chaotic era for too long. Now, the chaotic era is no longer called the chaotic era. Oh. Zhu replied indifferently. Then, he fell into silence. He seemed to be thinking about something. No one knew what it was exactly. Yes. The Scarlet Flame Tiger did not stop. He did not dare to act rashly in front of Zhu. After all, Zhu's existence was a supreme existence. Of course, that was in his heart. As for what other people thought, it was their business. Senior. The current chaotic era is no longer the same as in your memory. It has become the current sacred world. The energy that you feel might be the energy of a saint. As he spoke, he raised his hand. Half-holy spiritual aura instantly gushed out from his palm and rushed downward. As expected. A soft sigh sounded from below. Then, a declining voice sounded again. Lu Mei. Fellow Taoist Lu Mei, are you well? Fellow Taoist Lu Mei? The Scarlet Flame Tiger was unfamiliar with this name. He did not know who Lu Mei was. After all, he did not know all the people, things of the chaotic era. It was not easy to read a few introductions from books. Moreover, there were many books in the scripture pavilion in the system. He could not read all of them. It seems like there are not many old friends left. The voice sighed. A regretful voice sounded from below. Then, the shadow of a huge creature suddenly appeared in the fog. No matter how stupid the Scarlet Flame Tiger was, he knew that it was going to rush out and be proud. As he thought about it, his body tensed up. He looked down vigilantly. The spiritual chi in his body circulated to the left. He was ready to fight at any time. Below, the huge shadow grew bigger and bigger. Soon, a huge shadow appeared in front of the Scarlet Flame Tiger. A strange Zhu appeared in front of Lin Rei and the others. Zhu had the head of a dragon, the body of a qilin, and the tail of a dragon. Its cultivation was extremely high and unfathomable. The Scarlet Flame Tiger felt like an ignorant child in front of Zhu. It did not have the slightest intention of fighting to the death. Little guy, the bloodline of the Scarlet Flame Tiger has been cultivated to this level by you. It seems like you did not work hard in private. Looking at Zhu, the Scarlet Flame Tiger scratched its head awkwardly. If it was said that it worked hard in cultivation, then it was true that it did not. In Lin Rei's body, it did not need to deliberately cultivate. Spiritual chi would enter its body at every moment. Its cultivation was increasing at every moment. Of course, if the Scarlet Flame Tiger had a high-grade bloodline, it might not only be in the divine venerable realm. Sigh. Looking at the Scarlet Flame Tiger, Zhu sighed. Its face showed a sad expression. It recalled its charm in the chaotic era. It thought of the carefree journey with its best friends. It was so beautiful, so cool, and so happy. Unfortunately, ever since it came here, it did not have the chance to go back. It was not that it did not want to, but it did not know how to go back. It did not have the ability to go back. No, as if it thought of something, its eyes lit up. It raised its head and looked at the Scarlet Flame Tiger anxiously. Little guy, can you tell the Emperor how you came to this place? Once those words were spoken, the Scarlet Flame Tiger was stunned. He truly did not know how to answer Zhu's question. After all, it also came out when it came to this place. So, Senior, it's a long story. Actually, it's also, Little Tiger. Just as the Scarlet Flame Tiger was speaking, Lin Rei's voice came from above and entered the Scarlet Flame Tiger and Zhu's ears. Zhu raised its head and locked its gaze on Lin Rei. When it sensed Lin Rei's cultivation, a smile flashed across its face. It raised its head and looked at Lin Rei. Little kid, are you with this little guy? Lin Rei noticed Zhu's existence the moment he arrived. However, he was a little stunned by the existence in front of him that did not look like anything. Ding! Host, please be careful. The cultivation of the thing in front of you is very good. It is estimated to be at the Dao integration stage. Dao integration stage, this is also, what? Dao integration stage? Lin Rei was dumbfounded. He did not react earlier. However, when he did, he was shocked by Zhu's cultivation. What kind of level was the Dao integration stage? It was the peak existence in the sacred world. Back then, Hong Jun was only at the Dao integration stage. Furthermore, it was only a preliminary estimate. What was the point of this? If it went deeper, the other party's cultivation would gradually increase. That is possible because the aura that Zhu is emitting right now is only at the Dao integration stage. Since you have not activated the probing ability, the system can only make a preliminary estimate. Lin Rei, hearing these words, Lin Li was dumbfounded. So it really was as he had thought. As he thought about it, his shocked gaze locked onto Zhu. It was really unbelievable that such an existence would guard such a desolate place. Zhongli, is this the strange beast you were talking about? Air. Zhu turned to look at Lin Rei and nodded awkwardly. Yes, senior. This is the strange beast that guards the underworld. However, when I came here previously, it was not like this. It was just an ordinary cliff. He looked around at the gray, misty surroundings, and was completely dumbfounded by what he saw. She had no idea what was going on. What the F***ck is going on? She felt terrible. Previously, she thought that the strange beasts here were nothing to them. Now, she looked at this guy who was estimated to be at the Dao integration stage. Wasn't this a blatant slap to her face? Kid, the Emperor is asking you if you are with Little Tiger? An impatient voice sounded and entered Lin Rei's ears, instantly waking him up. He looked at Zhu and nodded subconsciously. Yes, I did come with Little Tiger. It was up to him to say that a wise man submits to circumstances. When facing an opponent who was stronger than him, it was better not to keep up appearances and suffer. A real man should know when to yield and when to stand tall. Wasn't that better? Brother Lei, what should we do next? Little Tiger's voice sounded in his mind. Looking at Little Tiger, Lin Rei hesitated for a moment. When he looked at Zhu again, a smile flashed across his face. He clasped his hands and asked shamelessly, Senior, can we enter the underworld from here? The underworld? Lin Rei's question instantly attracted everyone's attention. Yes, the underworld. Lin Rei nodded heavily. Zhu's relaxed face instantly became serious. She stared at Lin Rei with vigilance. Kid, you are not from this world. Therefore, the Emperor still advises you to return to where you came from. Be a good person and do things steadily. Don't do things that you can't handle. As she spoke, her gaze fell on Zhongli, who was trapped by Lin Rei. She shook her head helplessly and raised her claws, slashing at the energy barrier that trapped Zhongli. Bang! In an instant, just an instant, Zhongli, who was trapped by Lin Rei's energy barrier, was shattered by Zhu's gentle words. His energy dissipated into the air. Seeing that his energy barrier was broken, Lin Rei was furious. However, when he thought of his opponent's cultivation level, the surging atmosphere instantly calmed down. Senior, don't you think this is a little, swoosh? A piercing sound rang out as Zhongli, who had been standing tall in the air, instantly disappeared from his original spot. He turned around and appeared beside Zhu as he stared blankly at the scene before him. His horizons had widened. Sigh, it was a pity that he could not call the wind and summon the rain during this period of time. This person is from the underworld. I recognize his aura. Please return. With the Emperor's protection, you won't be able to pass. As he spoke, he turned around and led Zhongli away, disappearing from Lin Rei and Zhongli's line of sight. The slaughter continued in Hongtian City. Fan Jun did not let the matter rest after killing Lu Wei. In the blink of an eye, he slaughtered the imperial uncle's residence, and then the officials of the various empires. Other than those who were on good terms with Li Jiping, the other officials were all killed by Fan Jun. Those who were too important to be useful were all killed without exception. Of course, they were basically the main members of those officials' families. The rest of the servants and maids were all dismissed. In contrast, in the palace, Hongji had already been killed. He sat on the ground, paralyzed. His face was filled with pain and malevolence. Previously, he was worried about Li Jiping and thought that it would be a pity to use the three empires to kill Li Jiping. However, he did not expect that there would be such a plaything in the capital. With 30,000 soldiers, they were able to suppress all the military forces in the capital. The other party did not even have a chance to retaliate. Li Jiping, I didn't expect that after you died, your subordinate would still do this. What is he trying to do? Does he really want my Hongtian Empire to be destroyed before he stops? On the road back to the capital city, Li Jiping was galloping on horseback, hurrying along without stopping. If Hongji saw Li Jiping, he would probably jump up in fright and ask him a question. Didn't you get up? Chapter 13-12. At the bottom of the cliff, Lin Rei and the Scarlet Flame Tiger stood proudly in midair. Their eyes were fixed on the dense fog below them. They didn't know where they were, and they felt helpless. Zhu's existence was beyond everyone's expectations. Lin Rei and the Scarlet Flame Tiger had never imagined that the empty nether region would have such a powerful and invincible existence. Brother Lei, what should we do next? She looked at Lin Rei and asked helplessly. He really didn't know what to do with Zhu. Although he was full of pride before, Zhu was too powerful. She looked at the Scarlet Flame Tiger. How could she know what to do? He also felt Zhu's power. If Zhu was really guarding the area below them, their chances of entering the underworld might be slim. However, he wanted the bloodline grass and the high-grade demonic beast bloodline. His initial hesitation was strengthened. They had to enter the underworld no matter what. It was for no other reason than that little tiger could break through to the Saint Realm or even better. Without a high-grade demonic beast bloodline and a bloodline, little tiger's future would be bleak. Sigh. He let out a long sigh and shook his head with a bitter smile. He walked into the distance. With Zhu here, their chances of entering the underworld were slim. Unless there was another entrance somewhere else, Brother Lei. Actually, looking at Lin Rei, who was about to leave, the Scarlet Flame Tiger hesitated. It seemed like it wanted to say something but was too embarrassed to say it. Sensing the Scarlet Flame Tiger's strange behavior, he turned around and looked at the Scarlet Flame Tiger. He didn't hide the question in his eyes. I think we can be honest with Zhu. Finally, the hesitation in its eyes turned into certainty. Zhu wanted to ask us how we got in just now. What if Zhu doesn't know how to leave after entering this place? Even if his cultivation level is at the Dao integration stage or even higher, if he doesn't know how to leave this place and is imprisoned here by something, does that mean we can help him leave this place and the Dark Void domain? If that's the case, maybe Zhu can help us enter the underworld. Lin Rei didn't reply. He looked at the Scarlet Flame Tiger with a strange gaze. For a moment, he realized that little tiger wasn't that stupid. Of course, he wouldn't express this thought out loud. If he did, who knew what the Scarlet Flame Tiger would do? However, Scarlet Flame Tiger's words were still a solution. Thinking about it carefully, Zhu's question did have the same meaning as little tiger's. No, there was no response and he fell into silence. He entered the system with his spiritual sense and looked up at the sky. He repeated little tiger's thoughts and the system's original explanation. I didn't expect this little guy to have such a brain. The system laughed. Hearing this, Lin Rei smiled awkwardly. He didn't think that the system's thoughts would be similar to his. However, this wasn't the time to talk about this. As he thought about it, his expression turned serious. System, tell me, is what Xiaohu said reasonable or not? If it's really as little tiger said, then can I go and give it a try? At this moment, the system's opinion was often the most important. After all, the the system was experienced and knowledgeable. Even if it couldn't give a decisive opinion in the end, it could still be used as a reference. However, what made Lin Rei speechless was that after he finished speaking, the system fell into silence and didn't speak. After going crazy for about 10 or 20 minutes, there was still no response from the system. Lin Rei understood that the system wouldn't help him. As he thought about it, his spiritual sense dissipated and he exited the system and returned to his body. Take care of it yourself. You can't always come to me when something happens. As soon as Lin Rei left, the system's voice sounded out and disappeared again. In contrast, Lin Rei didn't know what the system meant. At this moment, after Lin Rei exited the system, he decided that Little Tiger's idea might be worth a try. As he thought about it, he smiled at Little Tiger. Little Tiger, if you guessed correctly this time, I'll definitely refine a saint-level pill for you to improve your soul realm. Really? Brother Lei? Little Tiger was excited. In addition to physical cultivation, a demonic beast's soul power was the second most important. Generally, the only way for a demonic beast to improve their soul power was to absorb the essence of the sun and moon to improve their overall cultivation. Looking at Little Tiger's excited expression, Lin Rei smiled and nodded. When have I, your brother Lei, ever lied to you in this aspect? As he spoke, he strolled to the front of the red flame tiger and reached out to stroke its head. Then, his expression became serious and his gaze fell on the ground below. Phew, success or failure depends on this. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Lin Rei circulated his cultivation to the extreme. The chaotic void spear was also controlled by his spiritual sense. If the discussion went south, he could use it at any time to defend himself. After everything was done, he asked Little Tiger to stay where it was and return to his original place. Looking down, the chaotic dragon spear instantly appeared in his hand. He raised his hand and held the chaotic dragon spear tightly. The saint's spiritual chi in his body circulated to the extreme and transmitted into the chaotic dragon spear. Suddenly, a giant chaotic dragon spear shadow appeared below Lin Rei. Shadow spear, kill. He had obtained the shadow spear a long time ago. However, this kind of spear was used to store power and wasn't suitable for battle. Therefore, he had neglected it. He hadn't expected it to come in handy now. The first form of the shadow spear was formed. The pressure of a perfected Dao fruit instantly reached the extreme. Go! With a shake of his hand, the giant spear shadow broke free from Lin Rei's control and charged into the fog below at lightning speed. He believed that although this spear couldn't do anything to Zhu, it would at least alarm him and make him reappear. And that was all he hoped for. After all, only then would he have a chance to negotiate with Zhu. Boom! A loud explosion rang out from below. The instant the explosion rang out, it was accompanied by a heaven-shaking roar. Ants, Emperor didn't intend to lower himself to your level. I didn't expect the two of you to be so ignorant. Aren't you afraid that Emperor will kill you? Zhu's voice rang out from below. From his voice, one could tell that he was truly angry. Extremely angry. Swish! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out from below. In the next instant, Zhu's giant figure reappeared before Lin Rei and Little Tiger. However, Zhu didn't have the same appearance as before. He glared at Lin Rei as if he wanted to skin Lin Rei alive. Lin Rei wasn't afraid when he saw Zhu's current appearance. Instead, a smile remained on his face. However, the scarlet flaming tiger in the distance saw everything clearly. At this moment, Lin Rei's back was drenched in sweat. Looking at Zhu, Lin Rei smiled and said, Zhu, I know you're powerful, but how about we make a deal? Chapter 13:13. A deal? Zhu looked at Lin Rei with a strange expression when he heard the word deal. Clearly, he had not expected Lin Rei to bring up the matter of a deal. In his heart, he did not think that a small saint at the Dao fruit realm could exchange anything with him. In his opinion, he did not lack anything. In his opinion, Lin Rei could not give him anything either. Lin Rei could see through Zhu's thoughts from the surface. After all, he was indeed lacking in front of Zhu's strength. Lin Rei smiled when he saw the disbelief on Zhu's face. The comparison was very normal. Zhu, I know what you're thinking. I'm just a small saint. I'm nothing in front of you. I don't have anything that you want either. Zhu raised his head and nodded in agreement when he heard this. He did not care about Lin Rei's face at all. However, when he heard Lin Rei's next words, Zhu, who had been disdainful, became serious and excited. Lin Rei smiled as he looked at Zhu. I want to tell you that my deal will allow you to leave this place, leave this world, and return to the saint's world. You'll obtain true freedom. With that, the smell of dessert flashed. What do you think of this deal? Of course, if you don't think it's possible, then let's forget about this matter. After all, with your great strength, what can't be solved? What do you think is right? At this moment, the way Zhu looked at Lin Rei changed. The disdain and contempt that had been there before had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by an expression of re-evaluation. This was especially true when he heard Zhu's words hit the nail on the head. Just this alone was enough to prove that this small saint who was only at the Dao fruit realm was different. What? You don't agree? Lin Rei's heart pounded when he saw Zhu remain silent. After all, there were many examples of people who failed to show off in front of an expert who was far stronger than them. Usually, there was only one outcome for these people, death. And he, Lin Rei, did not want to be one of those examples, so he was very nervous. He was afraid that he had guessed wrong. Zhu, who had been deep in thought, was awakened by Lin Rei. She returned to her senses and looked at Lin Rei with a smile. At this moment, Lin Rei's originally nervous heart finally calmed down. Little guy, tell me your conditions. Zhu did not ask if they could leave or when they could leave. Instead, she directly asked for the conditions. In comparison, Lin Rei understood that the other party was not simple. In front of such a powerful expert, Lin Rei did not dare to relax in the slightest. His smile remained, but his heart was extremely nervous. Let me enter the underworld and, as he spoke, he narrowed his eyes and continued, tell me about the situation in the underworld, then give me a bloodline grass and, little fellow, enough is enough. Zhu became somewhat impatient when she heard Lin Rei's increasing demands and reminded him. Don't worry. I believe that these things will be very easy for you. Lin Rei did not choose to stop because of Zhu's warning. Speak. Zhu said. Hee, that's more like it. Lin Rei's face was full of smiles. He was overjoyed inside. Just think about it, how great would it be to threaten an expert who was who knows how many times stronger than him? Of course, Lin Rei did not go overboard. He had handled this matter perfectly. Last one. He pointed at Zhu's body and said, give me 3 drops of your essence blood. Then, I will take you away and return to the saint's world. I will give you freedom. Roar. As soon as Lin Rei finished speaking, a furious roar emerged from Zhu's mouth. It was accompanied by a terrifying energy. Suddenly, Lin Rei lost control of his body and began to tremble in the air. It was as if he would fall at any moment. Thus, Lin Rei now had an even deeper understanding of Zhu's power. Little fellow, do you know what you've just said? Lin Rei did not take Zhu's threat to heart. He shrugged his shoulders and said, of course, it's only 3 drops of essence blood. Only? Hearing those words, Zhu felt as if she had vomited 3 liters of blood. Essence blood was the foundation of all living things in the world. This was especially true for demonic beasts. They had less essence blood compared to humans. A single drop would take hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years to recover. However, Lin Rei had asked for 3 drops of essence blood. The energy contained within those 3 drops of essence blood was enormous. With Zhu's cultivation base, it was unknown how long it would take to recover 3 drops of essence blood. Therefore, he hesitated. Host, you're a little shady. The system's voice rang out. Am I shady? Although that was what he said, he had the same feeling in his heart. He had originally planned to ask for 1 drop of essence blood. However, when he recalled that the other party's species was a little amazing, he decided to ask for 3 drops. Who knows, they might be useful in the future. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. It was always better to take precautions in advance than to wait for it to happen. Time passed peacefully in silence. No one knew how much time had passed. All they knew was that the sun of the Celestial Empire had moved from the east to the west. Finally, Zhu spoke. 3 drops is impossible. 2 drops, at most 2 drops. If you ask for more, this deal is off. However, although Zhu was somewhat dissatisfied with the price offered by the other party, it was still a sure win. In the end, Zhu appeared to be enduring the pain and nodded in agreement. Very well. Since Senior has asked for 2 drops, then 2 drops it is. Senior, you're the bigger one. After saying that, he waved his hand and a jade bottle flew out of his hand. It floated in the air before Zhu. Seeing Lin Rei's actions, Zhu felt a burst of anger in her heart. However, there was nothing she could do about it. Since she had already agreed to it, there was no going back on her words. However, when she thought of Lin Rei's conditions, her gaze locked onto the scarlet flame tiger and a smile flashed across her face. Little fellow, you're really blessed to have such a master. Zhu understood that the bloodline grass and the demonic beast blood essence could only be used to help this low-level demonic beast fuse its bloodline. Other than that, he really did not know what else these 2 things could be used for. Of course, he could also absorb all the energy in the blood essence and use it to increase his cultivation. Unfortunately, that was impossible. Zhu could see that the saint's spiritual qi in Lin Rei's body was extremely vigorous. His Tao foundation was not the slightest bit illusory. It was impossible for such a person to use such a method to increase his strength. However, if Lin Rei knew about Zhu's thoughts, he would probably laugh out loud. After all, before this, he had used the energy transmitted from the floating treasure mirror to recover his original cultivation. Then, he had broken through to the complete Tao fruit realm. Senior, what do you mean by that? Lin Rei knew. Zhu also knew. However, only the scarlet flame tiger was a little confused. So you don't know? Seeing the confused look on the scarlet flame tiger's face, Zhu smiled awkwardly and shook her head. Nothing. I'm just a little emotional. How good would it be if I could meet such a responsible person like him? You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.